meeting of Mosier Community School. I'm Emily Sands.
Dan Watson.
Marie Maru, Julia Good-Stefani,
Brent Foster.
Eric Works.
Michelle Dawkins.
And then online, please.
McKenna McKee, board member.
Veronica Smith, business manager.
Shannon Veit, payroll manager.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you all. Okay. Are there any changes or additions needed on the agenda? And for those who cannot see it, we've got DOE grant budget update and next steps. We've got Brent and Eric here to help us through that conversation. And then we have our 2026-27 budget that we need to look at, make any changes, ask questions, and then ideally approve. And that is it for today's session. I'm sorry, that's not actually accurate. Then there's also an update on the audit.
Okay.
Audit process.
I think I heard Tiffany coming.
Great, and we're about to be joined by Tiffany Strands. Veronica, did you want to add an item regarding the food services? Or are we waiting on that?
Yes, I mean, I'd be happy to cover that under the budget item if we would like, or we can add it as another item as well.
No, let's keep it under budget. We'll keep it simple. Thank you.
Perfect.
Spot, you can go by Dan, okay, or
I can-
wherever. Okay, well, I would entertain a motion to approve this budget if anybody wants to present one.
I'll make a motion to agenda as written.
Yeah, not budget. Getting ahead of myself a little bit. Thank you, Dan. Any seconds to approve the agenda for tonight? Yeah, thanks. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. You might have to help me out a lot tonight.
Got it.
Okay. I did not receive any pre-submitted public comments. Did anybody else? We'll scooch right on past that then. And we've got Brent and Eric here to help us through the grant, the DOE grant budget update and next steps. We've got some potential action items to consider approving the purchase of solar panels. So let's, Brent, if you don't mind just giving us like a Cliff Notes version of where we are, where we might be going, and what you need from us tonight. That would be helpful.
I will try to do the really quick version, and then I'll kind of, if folks have questions, sorry for the lengthy email. I didn't have time to write a short one. Long and short is this, every twist and turn you can imagine. We've obviously encountered on solar, from government shutdowns to, administrative changes. The action item I think that's most timely before the board is whether or not to buy about $63,000 worth of ILA solar panels. We have looked high and low, and we're in an absolutely unprecedented time in the solar world, where both federal grants, like the one we have, as well as federal tax subsidies, which is the direct pay. As a nonprofit, we get tax subsidies for solar via, it's called direct pay or elective pay. Same thing, different name. IRS likes to mainly call it elective pay. Everyone else calls it direct. But the point is, both of those have the potential to provide a vast majority of the funding, not only to put, if we were doing just the solar panels on the roof, it would provide all of it. When we shifted to the pavilion, it would provide somewhere on the order of 80% of it. That's if there's $1 million. The less it overall costs, the more the government provides, since DOE grant portion is somewhat fixed at around 310 grand, I think 309. So in case BABA and the requirements to use US made and the other hurdles that we have were not interesting enough, Trump's big beautiful bill included a provision which kind of fast tracked these requirements that limit tax subsidies for solar systems that are built with materials from foreign entities of concerns, FEOCs. You call most solar manufacturers or guys selling it, they do not understand it. It took me, I probably got 20 hours plus deep just trying to understand what the heck this is. I will not pretend I'm an expert on it, right? I what I know is enough, I think, to navigate us through where we need to go. And the general idea is this was targeted at China, which has a vast majority of not only solar panels, but inverters and batteries, right? So all of a sudden it has changed the game. The US manufacturers have stepped up and they're like, yeah, 2027, we're going to get a bunch of stuff that doesn't have Chinese parts in a lot of it. Still going to be Chinese parts in batteries, still going to be Chinese parts in some stuff, but it puts limits on it. So what that's done is created a couple things. One, the big thing is Trump ended and Congress ended the tax subsidies. These are extremely generous for nonprofits, right? You get to look at the total price of the project. So if the whole project is $1 million and we get 30 to 40% of that, 30% is kind of like the base a bit, part of it, and 40% if we use a higher percentage of domestic content. The BABA requirement pretty much pushes us towards that 40% mark. It may not get us all the way there because we may not be able to buy, we may need BABA waivers for batteries and inverters, right?
Can you break down that tax subsidy? Like, is that a credit against taxes owed by the school, or is that
So it used to be prior to Biden's Infrastructure Act, there was a federal tax credit that if you were a business and you had tax that you could use. A lot of nonprofits are like, hey, that doesn't help us, or if it helps us, we've got to buy these credits. It created this complicated aftermarket form for tax credits. Congress said, forget it, we're going to be generous. You're a nonprofit. We're going to assume that instead of dealing with taxes, because we know you don't pay any, we are just going to write you a check. It is good, cold, hard cash, functions just like a tax credit, but since you're not paying any tax, it just comes as a check. Comes after, so we got to put up the money and we get it back. We have to file before we do it, but it's not a you get permissions, you don't get permission. It's you've got it as long as you meet the criteria. For the 30%, the 40%, now you've got to show you've got this domestic content requirement to meet. And I didn't mention in the grant, but we actually qualify for up to 50%. Dan and I last year applied for, because we are considered a low-income community, we submitted the application as a placeholder, but to get the 50%, you need to apply for it. I'm not going to consider it. I totally want to go for it, but we've got enough moving parts right now that I first want to get the system design. Then we would need to get it approved by Portland Pacific Power. Then we can go in and apply for the 50% tax credit. But 30 to 40% is pretty reasonable. In the budget projections, I use 35. It is a moderate round, but there's some flex there.
is this 1 million overall cost, including the solar panels?
1 million is the best way to look at it is just it's a place marker. I can't tell you, I don't think from looking at it that it's going to be over $1 million. That doesn't mean it's not going to be. I'm just telling you because we've got until the engineering's done, we are, again, 2 months ago, before we actually went out and did a test dig and found that we've got bedrock, we would have been able to have pricing by now. Well, guess what? 3 weeks ago, or I guess a month ago or so now, we find bedrock. We've got now engineers lined up for $7,500. They'll start the engineering, and in 3 weeks, we'll have an engineered plan back. After we get that, we'll be able to get estimates on what it costs to actually do that. So what I kind of just tried to do is take some, I think, pretty conservative numbers, but not, massively. And
Conservative meaning high, so
yeah, the goal is high, and $1 million is a nice round number. So if it was $1 million is the way I think to look at it, I do think there's a pretty credible basis that it's not gonna cost. The numbers I put in, if you look at the grant, or if you look at the budget, these are high, like, when I put in for, you know, if you go down to the bottom of the spreadsheet that I did, to get to 1 million, I have to put in 250,000 for the rack installation and design, and another 100,000 for electrical. That process, from talking to the rack people, is usually something that takes less than a week, right? So to spend that much money in less than a week on install, it's conservative, right? I also included, again, we've never talked about being able to fund field leveling, but I think there's a good argument that, like, if you're building this thing, part of it should be the field leveling to make everything graded out the same way, right? But that's $80,000 right there. Again, feels conservative, and 17,000 because it gets us to the nice round number of 1 million.
Okay.
But yes, it
What-
includes, the idea is it includes everything, including the panels.
Can you explain also the fixed amount from the DOE, which
Yeah.
we've got it like basically 310? Is that fixed because that's the remaining funds we have to
Yes.
draw from?
Yes. I mean, essentially, DOE, we have a cost share with DOE. So DOE says, we will pay up to 61.3%, I believe, percent, and then we pay the other 38.7%. And so now, but up to a limit, because we've spent the other money, that's basically where, if they pay their maximum, it's 313 or 310. That's kind of fixed across any of the price scenarios. The thing that goes up is the direct pay, whether that's 30% or 35% or 40%. That is the amount of money that kind of goes up along with the overall all grant. The Energy Trust money also pretty much stays the same, because it's based on how many solar panels we put up and how much battery capacity we install.
Sorry, Brent, the possible 50% is the federal grant.
Yeah, the thing I
mean,
when I'm
I
thinking
think this is good to go.
conservatively, I think 35 is a really fair number. Are we going to go for the 50? You bet. It's nothing you can make a decision on. There's too many ifs, but we qualify. We're one of the, not that many groups actually qualify for that. So it was one of the reasons why we got the grant. So, we should qualify. And all this is, like, the administration wakes up tomorrow or some new bill passes, it's all out the window. But for right now, this seems like the basics.
Does that 310 take into account all of the planned projects that we have as far as what's available? Is that like looking at the balance sheet currently of what's left of DOE dollars, or does it include the asbestos remediation?
The asbestos remediation pulled money out of other expenses that we're not making. So $40,000 that was going to go to apprenticeship for comunidades. One time we had looked at this as supporting being able to move towards solar. It obviously makes great sense to spend it on asbestos removal. But yeah, the asbestos removal track was separate, but money came from comunidades,
The EV chargers.
about 40 grand. I think we had, or 30 grand for electric vehicle chargers. And Veronica,
Some awesome savings on the windows and the insulation project, and so there was about another 10,000 from there.
yeah, and that we also had 20,000 or 30,000 budgeted from Windows, which we just got, Energy Trust is going to pay us back for. So that's kind of how.
Windows?
Huh?
The insulation, yeah.
It's like I said.
Yeah, you did. I'm like, there's something I
was
didn't know?
Now there's so that's how we made up the money for the asbestos, but the $505,000 was already budgeted for solar, and of that $310,000
That's
would be
right.
from DOE.
Yeah.
And to be clear about the asbestos, and Veronica help me because I'm looking for the spreadsheet. So it's 100,000. Our they're not paying the whole 109,000, but they're paying a good chunk of it, right?
89.
They're paying a reimbursement up to 89,000 was the mark that we could take from the other budget amount. So that would leave about 19,000 that the school would have to cover above and beyond that budget. But to have the DOE include this in our project was pretty significant, so.
Mhm.
And getting rid of the asbestos is huge.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes, and
So-
sorry, really quick, did we already approve that $20,000 for asbestos?
Well, we approved the 109,000 asbestos.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking, yeah.
So how we kind of get here to a much more timely, essentially buying solar panels before you have the project budgeted and fully paying out, right? That is not, let's be clear, not the normal mode of operations. There's nothing normal about what's happening now. So one, we've got the fade out of the tax credit. July 6th of next month, or July 5th, sorry, is the cutoff date for what IRS basically calls a safe harbor date. If you've spent 5% or more of your total project budget by that date, then they'll consider you to have started construction in 2026. And that does a couple pretty big things for us. First, it gives us 4 years till 2030 to actually complete the project. I don't think we're gonna need that long, but I'm just saying.
We did apply for extension.
Yeah, you can apply for extension. Which we've already done on the DOE grant. So the second thing it does is it locks us in this federal entities of concern, which is I sent you in my email. There's one of these links which basically is people from the solar industry, and it is not hyperbole, basically freaking out because you're now trying to scramble to figure out how much content foreign energy of concerns is in every product. You have to come up with this overall calculation called an MACR that says how you add the panels and all this stuff together. And the bottom line is there is a rush towards the very panels that we have to buy. We have, I think, a reasonable chance of getting a BABA waiver for the batteries because no one in the U.S. produces them. On the inverters, probably the same. There are some inverters that are made in the U.S. None of them work for us, for the system and essentially the way it's set up. On the panels, though, there are a number of panels that work that could be BABA compliant, but only one we found that actually works with the rack system. The rack system has some unique requirements. I won't go into those details unless you want, but like the point is, they are already sold out of their big ideal panels. We are on the second tier, it's still functional, but they're available. And all the indications are the rack people, the solar guys, our solar reps, everybody says, do not expect that they will be available even several months down the line because everyone's trying to lock in their 2026 start date because now the potential, there is no waiver to fiat. There's no waiver to the foreign entity of concern. Unlike BABA, at least there's a waiver to BABA. So there's the very real potential, which is what happened in the residential world. All these people want to build last minute projects and they just can't get the materials. 63 grand locks us in. If for whatever reason we don't need them, we can sell them. They will be a hot commodity next year, just like they are now. If I was really pressed to make it happen, I would probably commit to buy them myself. They're not the exact, they're a great panel for the rack. They're not a great panel for residential, which is most of what we do. So, take that with a grain of salt, but it is what it is. We may be able to buy some and save on shipping costs or something like that. But overall, we're telling all of our clients, like we have Working Hands Brewery, Analama Winery, and others where we're working on solar projects. We're basically telling them all the same thing: buy your panels now, lock them in, or it just may not happen. So,
Okay. What other questions? Yeah, Tiff.
Costs like for the engineering of 7,500, well, I know Even the numbers we're talking about, it's like, doesn't seem like much, but all these little ones add up. Is that like, is that part of this?
Part of the panel cost.
Or-
They've said it's part of the panel cost.
Okay.
That panel cost may get updated some, like it may go up. They have technical advisors that can provide technical support. And there's, I think, some real cost saving benefits to including them in, and those are not in the thing right now. So that number may change, but I don't think even with that, it inflates the whole thing up over the, $1 million point. And you don't really have to decide on the $1 million point tonight. I kind of want it because I think it's in the realm of what we're talking. And if we weren't into it, then tell me, because there's a lot of other things I could do with my time. But generally I look at it and I'm like, all right, if that situation happened and we're talking, $200K plus or something roughly equivalent to what next year's surplus may be, or roughly equivalent to X% of reserves, it seems in the realm of doable. But that's why they pay you guys the big bucks.
I guess just one clarification on like the $75,000 for the engineering.
7,500.
7,500, sorry. That is like sort of starts the process with Infinity Rack too, and that basically like it's like their initial engineering, then they give us drawings which we can review and kind of like bring to the next level, and then that's all part of the ultimate cost. They wrap that.
Yeah.
So as a school, we think in annual budgets. And we get our funding annually. And so having cost savings over 5 years is great. And getting tax money back eventually is great. But I'm concerned about just like what the cost is in a particular year. So I would be more comfortable removing the 5-year assumption of energy savings and having really hard numbers for, okay, but this is what it would look like in 2026, 27, if that's when we build, or in 27, 28, not assuming this kind of spread out benefit and spread out costs. And also, if we don't have the money in hand yet back from the taxes, how much are we diving in? And then I think there's a little bit of thought, this is a separate strain of thought of just like, bearing this level of risk. And like you said, a different executive order, whatever, you can be pretty far out over your skis on certain things. And how do we mitigate or manage that risk and think about spreading it out? But my first question is just kind of, can we like look at a year of building this? We don't get the money back yet from taxes. We don't get realized cost savings on the energy. Eliminate those sort of bigger picture.
Yeah, so if you take out what I projected, if you go down into the kind of line 25 of the spreadsheet, I just do the annual production value of the solar for each of the 5 years. So
Right, spreadsheet, I've dropped solar pavilion budget.
Yep.
Yeah, keep
But
going down.
line 25 for me doesn't have any numbers in it.
It does say estimated
Says energy cost savings.
No, did I open the references attached to it?
no, you got it right here.
25,
Estimated energy cost savings.
line 25 doesn't have any numbers, but that has the captions.
Sorry, go to 26.
26, okay.
Yes, 26 on yours, sorry.
Yeah.
So 26 is like annual first year value of $16,000 in savings. That's basically using Department of Energy's PV Watt as a solar production calculator. Takes the average over X number of years of weather, says how much solar do you have, what's your angle and all that stuff, and you put it in there. And that's probably the most like commonly relied on energy calculator for figuring out costs. So if you took that in and put it instead of the 99,000, which was a 5 year, you would be, it would change the number a little, but it basically add
I'm pretty sure I'm in Wasco County's PUD that I pay 11 cents I'm
Yeah,
just-
the PUDs are significantly less expensive than the
This is
Pacific
key.
Power.
Cause this,
Specific.
this
This
is
is
Pacific
Pacific
Power, we have
Power,
Pacific
yeah.
Power.
Are we at 15 right now? Or is it-
I went into my bill and took the kilowatt hours and divided it by the cost, and it came out to 15 and something, but.
Well,
uh,
and we wouldn't be spending the money. Oh, I guess that's what we have been spending. Yeah. What have we been spending on like on? a
Well,
monthly
I'm gonna say
basis?
like in the winter, it was,
It's like
we had a
$5,000.
$6,000 bill. Veronica, did we have like a $6,300 bill, a $5,800 bill?
It was
I
an
mean-
average of 6,000 over the winter, and then over the spring, summertime, it's been more around 2.5 to 3
Per month.
per month.
And that's for the electricity to manage our new awesome HVAC.
And what I assumed
So that
was,
wouldn't zero out, that would be reduced by this amount.
that's correct.
Yes.
Yeah, the electrical costs are real. Electricity rates have gone up 50% in the last 4 years, right? And all the projections are, it's not getting, the increases aren't getting any smaller. So I kind of assumed, 8% per year this year, or whatever, I forget, it was like 15% or 13% or something for Pacific Power.
Definitely did not budget for this year for that. And,
Yeah.
but we also are not spending money on diesel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a savings, but I think.
That covers about 3 months.
Mhm. Yeah.
That we get from the solar panels. The rest of-
But every year it seems like it goes up. Of course,
Well,
every year it's
got
gonna
pretty
be.
aggressive
Yeah.
rate growth projections, but
I mean, if Pacific Power hasn't had less than an 8% increase, I think in the last 5 years, I think they've all been. If you Google or don't even get it, but like overall, it's like cumulatively added up to, it's like the difference between 5 years ago and now is something like. I think I figured it at 50%, so. But it is, and that's not, I mean, this is a combination of fire, fire mediation and all the other stuff,
Yeah.
but I don't think there's anyone that thinks the rate of increase, especially with the data centers and AI, is not doing anything but going up. It is not gonna cover all of the bill. It just, like, we don't have the space,
It's just gonna supplement it, Marie.
this was gonna be a question I was gonna ask during the 26-27 budget portion, but I think it might
Kind of
tie
is-
into this.
yeah.
So, for projections and forecasts, are we using, and our financial team is here, are we using something like Power School, or does North Wasco have Frontline or some?
So we use Power School as our student information system, our system. And then Frontline is our system that we use for, I'm sick. And you're tracking sick time, personal time.
Okay.
So
What
those
are
are
you-
the two
what are you on
systems.
that?
Would be like a financial system.
Oh,
that
no, we
they
didn't-
run
yeah.
Numbers and can project and forecast.
We use QuickBooks but for this part of it, yeah, we
And
could,
I'm just curious to know what North Wasco has, because sometimes bigger school districts have financial programs that run bigger systems, and I was wondering if they could take our numbers and plug them into the system to run.
Like a model.
Like a forecast, yeah. Forecast.
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
So I don't know what they use.
Mm-hmm.
Most schools use what's called Tyler Tech. And I'm gonna tell you, like, well, Shannon can speak to that. Tyler Tech is super complicated. And most of them are not going to be able to do that. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I know that North Wasco uses Tyler Tech, which is Infinite Visions, and with that, they probably use Forecast 5, which is the forecast program.
Thank you. That's the one. I got it confused. Forecast 5. Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder if
I don't know. I don't know that it's that easy to just go plug numbers into something like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's more complicated. Tyler Tech is super complicated, like very
Okay.
complicated.
But
So-
your interest is
Yeah.
like.
I
you
just
put
wondered if,
Forecast out.
if maybe Veronica or Shannon might have interest to, if there were some things that they would want to forecast out, if North Wasco would be willing to collaborate.
Yeah, I think
It's just-
Dan Peterson is busy trying to learn everything right now, so I'm not sure he has the capacity to do that. I could reach out to somebody else, but to Mark next door, because he also uses Tyler Tech. I don't know that it's, and Shannon, speak up because you've used,
Yes.
I don't know, like.
I do.
know what
Yeah,
software-
I used Tyler Tech for like 10 years. So with the Forecast 5 and the Tyler Tech, you actually have to, it pulls, the Forecast 5 actually pulls the figures straight from the Infinite Visions program. So it's not like you can plug in your own numbers really. I've done some forecasting where, you know, we got to like intricate spreadsheets that I've done before, but it's not as easy as just like plugging numbers into like Forecast 5 because it really does pull the information from Infinite Visions and put it in, and then you fill in stuff. So
I met with Mark next door because we were looking at Tyler Tech. We could maybe possibly like clip on to somebody else for about 25 grand a year. And Mark is like, we don't have the, like, he's like, that's not worth it. Like our budget's not worth it. To actually have Tyler Tech is somewhere between $60,000 to $70,000.
Right, that's what,
Yeah.
this was more just like a general
Yeah.
global question, like
Yeah.
the board meeting years down the line. Maybe for some things, it would be nice to be able to be able to use that fancy system. But
Yeah.
it sounds like maybe it's.
Oh, Veronica has her hand up.
Oh, yeah, Veronica.
Sorry. QuickBooks does have integrations with other types of forecasting programs because forecasting is obviously big in all the realms. So what we could do is this maybe next summer, look at some potential forecasting integrations with QuickBooks online and see if there's one that might be a good fit and then bring it back to you guys for a review if you would like.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
And so, just what, I wanted to correct myself. So Pacific Power just requested in their rate case next month a 10 to 11% increase. The prior year they requested the same, but they were only given a 4. So I'd say if you want to be even more conservative, just assume whatever, zero. I mean, you could assume zero savings. I can't tell you what the power rates increase is going to be, but even if you assume zero, that puts it to 241,000. That still puts without the any energy savings found, that would put Mosier's percentage of the whole project at 24%. If you assume 5-year savings, you know, it goes back down below 20%.
Sorry, at the $1 million mark?
And is there a potential that we could, you know, obviously we're assuming 35% federal direct pay, but we could get more.
Yeah.
Or less.
Or down to 30%.
Yeah.
So 5% less.
I
Yeah.
think
I mean, I
also,
think I would assume that the 30, you know, if you're actually being conservative, I would assume 30. And also, what's the timing of getting that back?
From what I understand, it's like, it's not like you're waiting 6 months to get it back, but
but it's after construction.
it's after construction. You have to front the money and, you know,
Does it get paid back after it's all done or in the process as we're putting money out?
it gets paid back when it's all done. So it's got to be operational, and then you submit your thing that says we're done. And
How does the Oregon trust money get paid
same way.
when the project's all done?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a lot of money, folks, until the project is done, and these projects can take more than a year. I mean, one of the things I'll say is I do feel an obligation to this year's students to, like, I think you have to be cautious about spreading money out, especially if you're talking $500,000 over multiple years. Like, there are students who are just here for a year and then they switch schools, and like that, that's not a small dip that we're fronting into our reserves. If I don't fully understand the level of our reserves, but you're talking, that 350, I think you could increase to be at the 30% mark. And then the 90 to 100K, that's the Oregon Energy Trust. So that's all stuff that we're fronting as far as I understand.
Which has an impact, right? Because we also have benefited from having high reserves and earning interest off of those for a number of years. I do, like, one thing that I was interested in learning more about, which I don't know, Michelle, maybe you have answers to this. What is like an appropriate amount of money to have in reserves? Because another way to look at it is that those reserves were built up by not investing in the students at the time when that money was, you know, passed to our school. And so I also want to just like step back from this and recognize that in doing this, it's a solar project. We have potential to save some money on energy bills, things like that. And we're getting that space out there that we've talked about as being important for our kids to have access to being outside when it's rainy. And so it's like, there's that, I don't want to lose sight of the dual purpose of this space where, normally in another situation, if our school wanted to create space outside for our students, we would just have to pay for all of it.
But we haven't budgeted that out. If we were just simply building a covered space for our kids, like, I don't know, would that cost $1 million? Like, we're not talking inverters or solar panels or electricity, just simply.
The
Yeah.
solar part of it is free. It is literally free. You can get it all paid for if there's not a multi-$100,000 structure. We could try to put it on the roof and try to get a bob waiver for panels. We could do racks across the front northern thing that are just low racks, free. Within the existing $500,000 budget, between energy trust and everything, it is free. Provides absolutely no covered play area.
Yes.
So that's to me what I would look at the delta, because the money is already there. 60% from the feds. We've got it. We applied for it. We said we were going to build it. 40%, 30%, even if it's 30, you're talking, small amounts of money, even if at the lowest end. When you add that with energy trust incentives, it is literally, we could do something. And if the idea is we don't, play structure is not a priority, then that's what you fall back to. I don't think you fall back to nothing. That ship left when we applied for the grant and agreed to do it and everything else. To me, the delta here is, whether you take what is not going to happen probably anytime soon and utilize the fact we can get the feds to pay for 40% of a solar rack that also happens to provide that overhang structure that, that you can use the federal grant money to go towards that and everything else. I do think it's, that's the difference. Like, if this was just on the roof as planned, there's no, it is literally as close to free as you can get.
I think the other thing is that the exploratory research that we've done for this particular project and looking at the site constraints of the site and that sort of shallow bedrock, I think that's all part of the engineering of the structure. And I think if you were to do that as part of a freestanding structure, again, that would just be complications. But again, because it's all part of the rack engineering, it's being brought into the engineering of, frankly, the solar racking. So not that you wouldn't see those costs, but I think you have some pretty unique site constraints that are coming to the fore now, and I think it's potential opportunity. I mean, I think a lot of Brent's unknowns are am I digging 4 foot by 12 feet deep piers, which is not viable? But then what is the creative solution? Which there are certainly creative solutions about anchoring to bedrock. And I think, it's an unknown in Brent's bucket right now, but that could be a savings from what we were looking at before. But I also think that is all part of, obviously, everything's been really schematic to date. So, but at some level, to kind of proceed with the project, we need some commitments.
Really, just to be clear, the question for tonight is whether or not to proceed with the $62,000 in payment, right? And I agree. If the idea is we don't want to do anything, we don't want to invest in solar, then maybe that doesn't make sense. If even the thought is we may want to look at an alternative racking if this one is too expensive along the fence line, or these panels would not be able to go up on a roof for the same reasons that we got here in the first place. But it's not impossible that they go, that they would go on a simpler, lower cost, obviously less functional rack.
Mhm.
I understand what Julie is concerned about, and we should all be thinking about is just being over leveraged and having all that money out there before you ever get back, or maybe for certainly other groups.
So just on the math, and maybe
So
what is the, I understood the reserves to be somewhere between 1.3 and 1.5 once we get paid back. Is that?
Yeah, aren't we about 1.4 right now? I think I just Cause I just did a transfer, Veronica.
Yes.
And that's before we have money. I don't know what the last invoice was. Was it for 107?
It was.
Invoice is just a little.
Am I right, Dan, that when I started on the board, we were at over 2 million? Yeah, so I mean, I've been on the board for not that long and I've seen us burn through $1 million of our reserves. And this is putting us at like another $500,000 out. Now I mean, I hear like this money can come back, but it's also the risk is solely on the school if it doesn't. And so just sitting with, and I will say part of the reason we burned through reserves is we had an emergency at the school. Like in my mind, that's what reserves are for. Is having a certain amount of cushion. It's part of what's made it very attractive when we tried to recruit administrators, is saying like, hey, like we're in a really good fiscal health. You want a new position in the school and you want to be able to look at our reserves. You want to have some money, so like wiggle room to design programs and I just think we should step back for a minute and think about like, one, I want to better understand, and I'm not 100% there, like total cost ultimate to the school. And part of it is I do feel like there's a little bit of fluff in here that I would rather just not think about 5-year energy savings or those sorts of things that I think dull the numbers in ways that are not, from my perspective, over a 5-year span, like not totally justifiable. And so, but that seems like it's actually relatively minimal. But then also think about, okay, once I have a sense of like, this is the ultimate cost to the school, maybe it's $240K. Is that our priority? Like, is that like, you know, we've prioritized by facilities over so many other things in the last 3 years from my perspective. Like that seems to be repeatedly when we have extra money where money is going. We built the music room, we redid the preschool, we did the grounds, we moved that campus from there, we put a fence around. Like for quality of my students, and I'll just speak for myself, experience at the school, like there are a lot of things that are important. And it's not just facilities. And like, I'm really motivated to invest in a number of things at the school. And I sure like, so I just like I just feel my own personal sense is that that's gotten an outsized amount of attention. So how to balance that with competing needs and desires. And I've looked at like, we really focused on the certified staff's salaries at this school and raised them well above what the neighboring schools are. We've never done that for the classified staff. We want to purchase a school bus and start to implement our strategic plan and do all of this like outdoor ed and place-based and field trips and cool off-campus experiences. But that will require reserves. We want to bring in more art programming to the school. I'd love to see a language program. So just thinking about like curriculum needs, we've heard Sarah Grace talk about curriculum needs. So just like my little soapbox of like, it's really easy to go down the facilities path, but like, are there other competing needs that like maybe with this, there's opportunity costs.
I'd like to kind of piggyback off of this discussion. It's an important thing. And when I joined for this discussion, moving the manufacturing middle school down, which we did, and then there was a huge focus on facilities, and I think as Michelle would probably attest to, there's still and continues to remain signs of different needs. So I do think there certainly was a focus on facility, which was initiated by the security of the school grounds, the alarm systems, the surveillance, and all of that. And I agree that it would be nice to see more of the balance where and we're also forecasting all of this out, what kinds of programs can we offer, looking at over time. I do think it would be 5 years down the line
I think we also have to consider the fact that the dollar and what we had in the management. Economies collapse. So these are big risks that we have to, I think, consider in this current time. We need investment. 1.4 is still 1.4. I don't think any of us, even economists or people on Wall Street, would. I don't know. I'm not an economist, however. That is one thing I think, not wherever the money ends up going, bring that a little bit our conversation. Looking at the economy and our budget and trying to see how our investments by 2 years down, 1 year, 2 years annually, as best we can. And this doesn't, this is a daily discussion. I'm just so.
Okay,
Could we just, because it keeps coming up,
Yep.
we started to have the conversation about how much is in reserves. Could we try to nail that down?
So I just went back and looked. So in June 30th, 2024, we had 2,312,000, well, 13,000. That's what we have in the LGIP account. We currently right now have 1 million, hold on, where did I go?
2.3 million.
We had 2.3 million. Of June, well, actually it's 2 years ago.
Oh, 2 years ago?
Yeah, because that's before we started spending money out of it. And then, and now I'm making a statement for right now. It's not as easy to do that. And then, so the statement that we just had. Sorry. May 1st, so this is the most recent. Keeps wanting to.
I see you, McKenna. We'll come to you after we get this.
Okay. Is 1.422.
1.42. So we spent about $1 million.
And then there's another 160,
Well,
or is that?
1,000.
so Veronica, our invoice that's gonna come back in,
That's 89,000 sitting right now.
that invoice was 89,000.
Mhm.
Okay. That will come back. So you're gonna be at 1.5, basically.
Okay. So not quite. Okay, McKenna.
Yeah, well, just on that note, of course, some of those investments were the music room, which of course added this great new program for the school. And I think that was a wonderful investment. And as I think most of the things we've done to the school have really made our school something to be proud of. I also just wanted to reiterate that currently we have a solar system there that doesn't work. It's not safe for the kids. It's blocking, and we cannot use that space. So it's the opportunity cost. We need it. It's great. And the safety of that spot is a concern.
Something there?
I look at where we came from, what we've invested in. We invested in our administration in the school to improve the school from where we were, where years ago to where we are today. That costs money. That's costed some money to do that. Where we were at was an unsustainable place where we had 145 students and we had a budget that's very similar to today, besides the things we're already spending. What we're investing in is creating a long-term investment for the school so that we sustain what we want to see here. And part of that is investing in facilities. It's what people see when they come here. And that's what the kids play on. Right now, if you go and are involved in lunch during the wintertime or PE during the wintertime, there's not enough space in the school for those things. And so for me, this creates a space where the kids can get out, long-term have a place to eat outside, covered away from the sun, away from the rain. They can go out and have PE out there, and we are spreading it out and using our space appropriately and building something that invests in the community and invests in the school that Yes, okay, we have 1.5 million, we spend $500,000 with that, and if this happened, then 300,000, maybe a little bit more than that before we get repaid. Having $1 million or a little bit less than $1 million in the bank account, we don't have some huge expenses that are gonna come up, they're gonna sap out that money. If we saw our enrollment decline severely, we'd say, okay, we have something to really be concerned about here. But we have enrollment, it's holding steady or going up in the year ahead. So that's what's bringing in the money. And when we think about spending our money, there's year to year budget spending that we can spend based on what we're bringing in. And then the savings is a different thing altogether. We can't build systems that cost us money into the future that we'll take from our reserves, whether it's adding another 3 teachers or doing whatever we're going to do. Those things are unsustainable. This to me is something that is affordable in what we're looking at in our reserve. $2.2 million reserve for a school of our size is egregious. It's money that we should not have.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be that high, in my opinion. That's not giving, that's especially where we were as a school and our facilities and everything else that we're doing is inappropriate, in my opinion. We've had school districts around us that have a lot less money than that, and some that went down to zero, they're still surviving. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen with spending this money to make this happen. I do have concerns about spending money. It's not like I just want to go crazy spending, but at the same time, I would like to see something done there that lasts for a long time, that provides us a space for the kids to enjoy that. I think when we maintain that level of enrollment, where we may lose some kids for other reasons, those kinds of things will keep kids here in a way that, we're the only school in the area that's increasing in enrollment. Nothing, we're not seeing this in our emails we get as school board members. They're decreasing almost everywhere. And I think there's a reason for that. I think it's because of the investments we made to turn the school around from what it was. So I think this is in line with those investments. I don't want to put the school in any financial hardship, but even if our reserve got down to $500,000, I don't see a $500,000 expense in the next 3 years. It's going to cost us that money that we won't be able to replenish.
Yeah, going back to what you said about reserves, it's anywhere from 5 to 15. So like Beaverton does 8% reserves, of their total budget.
So what would that be for us?
Well, if you did 15, I think it's 15 is like 420. Is that what I came up with? Is that right, Veronica? We're 2.8, like our budget, right? I mean, our
Annual budget,
yeah.
So 3.
300,000.
Round
Yeah, I think like if you kept 500,000 in there, because I think you have to go a little bit higher just because we are in a really old building.
Yeah.
What's the next thing gonna go? We're gonna have to redo the water line. There's always gonna be something right now. Now, nice thing is we buttoned up the windows. We have an HVAC system. A lot of our electrical's been upgraded, so that's good. But the water's gonna be the next thing that we're gonna have to do something with. So there's, building a brand new school like this, like replacing the school, over to $20 million, easily.
But I was just thinking, this is not going to be done this year. It's probably maybe at the end of next year. It may be done, but you're looking at a 2-year cost cycle to go back to your point of what monies are we going to put out and when are we going to put them out?
But what happens if we don't get the extension? Like, how much are we out? I just, one of the things, maybe it's my lawyer brain, that I want to always understand the liabilities. So where is the risk and what is the biggest risk you could possibly be undertaking? And is that something we would be comfortable absorbing? So I want to
my understanding was if we pay the money before July 5th, then we are into this. It's not a matter of an extension. It's a matter of pulling ourselves into a program where we are then given this 4 years to complete it versus an extension on our current. And you can correct me if I'm wrong in that, but it seems like that's where this is from. Am I wrong in that understanding?
Are you talking grant extension or are you talking? Yeah, so we've got grant extension, which we've asked for, and I think
We're good for the grant right now until 2026. We have asked for another grant extension. Veronica, you were on that call. It didn't seem like it didn't seem like it was an issue, but also Christians also at the whim of the government right now. So
And that's to spend $309,000 before September 2026.
yeah, and so I think, just to be clear, if we were able to pull it off and still do this summer, I'd love to do it. I'm highly skeptical that that's going to happen, but we were able to do some part of it, have DOE give us the money back for it, or get some of it done during the summer break, that would be fantastic. I also I think it's hard to see it being all completed this year. I would say though, like just in the big picture opportunity world, if we had some other opportunity to get, 80% match on some fund, which is essentially what we're at now, even under the worst case, that would be hard to look past. I hear your concerns, Julia. I am a fiscal conservative at heart, but at the same point, I look at the stuff that's been done and the expenses we've made from the new electrical system to the HVAC to whatever, it just totally changed the school. And I think that is the reason, and paid teachers more, and these are the big investments, but I think it's the reason why we've got a waiting list to get in, and and the kids are stoked on going to school. It doesn't stink downstairs, and so I do think
Food doesn't taste burnt.
yeah. But
Remind me on the DOE, it wouldn't have to, with the extension, it's just the money it doesn't necessarily have to be complete, does it? Or it's just that we've paid that money like to the Infinity Rack and to other various.
Yeah,
or
with
is
the
that right?
DOE
Is
grant,
that-
we get paid as we go along, right? So if we were able to say complete rack installation, panel installation, but not all the wiring and batteries and inverter, right? Which is a possible split. I mean, the guys at Infinity Rack, I have the sense they're very motivated. They would, but there's a time lag there, and we've got engineering, so I don't want to guess, but if that was going to happen, I think that, you could see that. But we get reimbursed for it as we're coming, right? So the stuff that we're gonna have to frankly start when we have to start throwing our own more of our own money up is once the DOE money runs out, then we're not just paying 40%, then we're paying full freight until we get the money back from direct pay and the Energy Trust.
And the DOE isn't always as a percentage, so it's not like the first 309 we spend, they'll reimburse, but they will reimburse a percentage as we go.
That's right.
So how much?
That's 61.
That's basically 60-40 or 38-60-40. I'm getting 300.
So we'd have to spend $500,000 by September in order to get that.
Unless we
We
get the
have to
grant
complete the
extension. We get the grant
That's what
extension.
my question was like,
That-
we just have to spend all
Yeah.
that money by then, or does the project have to be complete, or it's just that we
To
just.
get the DOE money,
Yes.
to get so, I know it's complicated,
Yeah.
we got a couple of
there's so
the
many
money.
different Things.
I do just wanna address the only money in that budget that I think you had problems with is the electricity savings, but if you wanna ice out, it's $99,000 of a money, it's not a massive thing. The other money, the links are in the email. Energy Trust is solid, direct pay is exactly what it is. If you wanna, even more conservative, go to 30%. That's fine. It's still, this is all assuming too, our worst, again, what I'm kind of approaching as our worst case $1 million overall cost, right? Everything less than that, if it's 900,000, you want to knock out the soccer field, then you can, save 80,000. I mean, I don't think we should, but I'm just saying I think there's, a range of, it kind of completes a real full school upgrade and does it on a very small percentage of actual reserve cash,
And the direct pay, that 30 to potentially 50%. If we buy the solar panels before July 4th of this year, then we're locked into that. That's
what locks us in.
okay. So that like reimbursement or tax credit isn't going to disappear on us. Okay. That feels more secure to me because when we've had this conversation in the past around the DOE budget, there's been so much uncertainty of like what the administration is going to do with these different incentives. And like the fact that July 4th is less than a month away. I know a lot of things can happen, but that makes me feel more comfortable. It's just that we wouldn't get the money back until we're completely done and connected to the grid.
So tonight really what we need to decide, and I know we have to talk about the whole thing to know if it's even viable or we want to do it with what we have, but really, we're talking about spending the 62 some thousand to buy the panels. And then if the design, and then we'll be waiting on the design. And if that comes back astronomical, we can cut the cord if we really wanted to and sell those panels and forget solar altogether.
We could
And forget the, right, like we
could
can
look at
sell them.
Plan B, we could, you know.
Or yeah,
figure
yeah,
out
less-
more
Place to put them,
plans.
yeah.
You could, you know, put them on the music building. I mean, there's,
Right.
you know, we can't put
So,
all of them on the music building.
I feel comfortable to say yes to that. Like personally, I think I understand enough now. Knowing that we could recoup that money, and if we just end up deciding no because the cost of the structure is 2 million or whatever it comes back to be. And we don't feel good about doing that, we don't have the funds for that. I know. I'm sure we'll lose a little money on it. But I think that's a risk we're taking because this is very like
I've got.
worthy project, and it also like plays into our long-term plan of doing like outdoor classroom that is used for, you know, and this, I think it will really enrich the students. I know it's another facility thing, but like these facilities were in like the mines. That's all I have.
Okay, what else? What other thoughts, concerns, questions?
And just a thought too, like, since it will be related to that solar project, we should be able, Brent, right, to get that reimbursement from the Department of Energy grant. That 62,000 reimbursed.
Oh, is that right?
The-
So
the-
if we purchase the solar panels, we would be able to invoice them for that and get that reimbursed?
I think as soon as it would be a good question for Christian.
For
Yeah,
Christian, yeah, we can follow up with Christian on
It
that
is
too.
it is a reimbursable cost. I
Mhm.
think we need to have for the new thing, we need to have that NEPA sign off done.
Yeah.
And then we could get reimbursed from them.
And he was working, wasn't he working on that?
We're
He
working
was-
on it.
you were- Okay, and then, my concern would be like, if that was to happen and we did get reimbursed, then we definitely would have to figure out where to put them here, because selling them would be dicey.
Oh, sure, yeah, if we got money from the banks, yeah.
Right, so,
But that's another thought too, you know, you may not have to wait so long to get that chunk also.
Yeah.
Back, at least a bit.
Yeah, hey, Veronica, can we get your perspective on this?
Yeah, so I definitely been talking with Brent a lot. I know from my experience with working the Department of Energy grant, it's gone well so far, right? Christian's been a great resource and asset in helping us get the reimbursements back. So that's been wonderful. I would love to see the school be able to utilize that fully, that 505 that is already locked in. And then the direct pay, I was looking at that as well. And it seems, you know, that once you have that locked in, it comes fairly quickly through the tax process. So, you know, obviously it's your decision overall, but it seems, especially with how the energy costs are going and continuing to go up, that this would be a pretty forward-thinking move to do something at least. Whether it's this big rack system or not, it's definitely a big decision to make, but we're gonna need something, or I'm gonna really have to increase our utilities budget for this next, you know, few years. So definitely would love to see something help curb that.
Like anything on just like the kind of bigger picture budget, if we are to move forward, and this isn't a decision we need to make tonight, but like if we are to move forward with that, you know, $1 million idea, any thoughts, concerns, like as far as where that leaves us sitting budget wise?
Well, honestly, you guys have really been stabilizing. So this next school year, we're actually looking at a pretty significant increase in the SSF funds that are going to be coming through. There should be a surplus of quite a bit. And then as Michelle has really gotten those ADM numbers, which is the majority of your income, tighter, with potential of preschool promise and things of that nature, the school is looking more and more sustainable as the income is coming in. So with that being said, I mean, it's really now about, are you going to have a school that's comfortable and safe for the kiddos to be in, right? And that's what you're investing in at the moment. So forward thinking with the budget, you guys are looking to be in a very good spot. When I talk with other ODE or with other schools, they are impressed with how the population of the school is growing. They said they're not seeing that in other districts and other schools. So I think you're doing great work. Michelle's done fantastic with that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
On our ADM adjustments, when we get those payments 2 years out from the current year, what was our number this year that we used?
Well, it was low. It was
There was the final adjustment, so it was down 60,000 was our adjustment. Next year we're projecting, using the ODE site numbers that we have locked in, 232 for this 27-28 school year will be a positive.
Okay.
because we had to really come out of, like, it's a 2-year
Right.
hole that we were in.
Yeah.
And now we're digging our way out of that hole. And then the hope is that instead of projecting way high, which is what was done in the past to get money, is we project a little bit lower. So then we're like, it's like a little bit of a savings account. It's like getting a tax refund in a way. And I think that's just a better conservative way to do it. So like currently, if I look at where we're at next year, we have the potential to be right now at 205. We could probably go up a little bit. And, but we've only asked for 195. Is that right?
That
Yeah,
is
190.
correct. Yeah.
Being conservative, because what happened this year, we were at 190 and then we got down to 182 because we had some kids move back and forth. And so we just want to make sure that we're very conservative in that. And so that at the end of the year, instead of having to owe money, we get a refund, basically.
Yeah. We're also getting better clarity. Like we met with one of the ODE people that work with the ADM calculations and really deep dived into each of the lines, exactly what they mean, exactly how they calculate. And so now we're able to do our own pre-calculations and pre-reconciliation every time that they release their new statement, which has been super helpful because now we can actually track, as they are releasing the fresh information, here's where it is at. The relationship with Dan Peterson, as he's still really learning his role, but it's been a much better, more open communication relationship than we had with the previous finance manager over at NWASCO. So that's been really helpful too, is there's a lot more back and forth conversation, and hopefully potentially if there aren't any adjustments that need to be made, we can work directly with them on getting that done throughout the year rather than having a big thing, at the end of the year.
And we do have that one number, but then also like we get, and this will be kind of the wild card is the ELD funding, because I don't know what's happening with that. But we also get a rural, because we're in a rural location. So that 195 it really kind of weights out to like 230 something, I think, right?
Yeah, I just had that pulled up.
All the adjustments.
It is definitely, it's more for sure.
So
More.
it's CSL
Yeah.
factor, so.
Okay, so this makes sense that we're kind of we're meshing our agenda items, but I do not want to lose sight. And I also recognize that it's 6:45. And so I'm just wondering, Julia, is there, or to everybody, Julia, Marie, Tiff, Dan, Kenna, is there anything else that is helpful to have a better understanding of, specifically regarding the ask of approving the 63,000 for solar panel purchase?
Is that gonna be a kind of good number? Like, is that the right number? That's what it's gonna cost? Are they more now because there's so much competition, or do we feel like that's a confident number? Brent, on the solar panel costs? 63 is a good cover.
I think what I would,
Go for 65.
well,
You feel good at 63?
I feel fine at 63 is what we got the estimate for, it's just
okay.
below 63. I think
62.
one thing we do need to do, I think there's gonna be a motion I would order is giving Michelle authority once we confirm this site, this company only does direct sales. So there's no ability to go out and get like 5 different quotes But I think we want to put together the explanation of like why these are the only panels that are going to work with this, and all the other panels that we looked at. And we've got my full-time solar guy has been, doing the phone calls and keeping the notes, and we've kind of put together little things so that when you
They just want to see that we have a process
Yeah.
for this. And so we can approve the money for it. And then maybe at Tuesday's meeting, we approve we would have to approve who it is. And we could check with, Christian's very good about, he's very, I have to say, like, when we first started having this conversation and going into this and to the unknown on whether or not it was going to be funded or not, the whole process seems so much better now. I mean, Veronica, you feel it?
Oh, absolutely. It's night and day.
Yeah.
But it would be important to make
Yeah,
sure that
yeah.
we've got like. clear
We could
process
ask him,
for
we could
Christian
ask him
versus
like, what
sourcing.
does he, because he understands how limited this is, and just ask him like, what does he need for us for the process? So. Because we do have a process, and it's like, we look at 3 different people, we have a scoring system for it. I turn that into him when we're done. But is there any way to get 3 bids or not?
I think we can
Can we rule out?
we have multiple we get multiple essentially pricings for panels that
Yeah.
Don't work.
multiple
And
ones
they don't work.
that they've been rejected. This is not
Okay.
we came up. Well, you do the high lean panels. These will be great. They work. They come from our supplier in Northwest. Email chain. No, those will not work because of this reason.
So we've already done
What
that
we
one.
need is just not to get too down the details, but we need a bifacial panel, which means light can pass through it. And then it needs to have glass on both sides so they don't have ball strike breaking the panels from below. It needs to have a steel frame, and it needs to have cables that will fit within their racking thing. So, and it can't be too thick
And then of course that's be American made.
yeah. And then it's got to be.
I mean, but I think there's clear approval criteria. I think Brent has done a ton of research and looking at all these other options that are either not available or.
Yeah, we've got a nice little.
I'll show her a little vendor thing, and we can actually just take 3
Yep.
bids and go through it, and then we score it, and they're like, well, this one scores high because it's the only one that's going to work.
Mhm.
So so that doesn't worry me then. So.
Okay. Okay. What other reasons? Julia, what are you thinking? How are you feeling about this next step at least?
So I just want to make sure I understand this consider right. If we assume 30%, this 350 return into 300, is that right? And then on what the feds cover, then total feds, I'm getting 609. And total MCS would be an additional 50K at 291. And if you take away the 99,000 over 5 years, so you're basically looking at $300,000 that the school would spend at the minimum. Is that right? The cost to the school.
I'm not sure.
Are you not
My
following?
brain may not be quite as fast as yours on that, but if you assume, if you go down to, I mean, what I can tell you on just in terms of I'm all about being conservative, but like if we're using all US made steel for the racks and US made solar panels, we're going to get some credit for that. But even if you do that and you remove any consideration of energy savings,
Isn't it going to be that 240? Because right now it's at 144.
yeah, you're
9.
241. If you remove totally energy savings, you're at 241, which is 24% of the overall project cost. And if we assume we've got a $1.5 million budget, that would be 16% of reserves, or I guess the equivalent of is next year's surplus, is that what's supposed to be 200 or 250?
It's going to be around 200. So
232 is where it's sitting at the moment.
To me, we're slightly less than 1 year's surplus, even at the
But my 300K, like if you took if instead of doing 35%, you did 30.
Okay.
300K up there.
300K.
So
And that
that's
puts us at
50 dollars,
291.
291, which is
If
what
you zero out energy savings back, how would you not consider energy savings? I mean, it's the whole.
But the energy savings like annually are really modest. There's $16,000 to recoup that 300,000 the school is paying would take you almost 20 years. Like I just don't think.
Assuming a static energy cost.
Which it won't be. Right, assuming, yes, but other there will. I'm just trying to get a sense of like the hard cost to the school and that. So, I mean, the question then becomes like, is it 300K that's not a recurring cost that will include modest energy savings, I would say. I don't think they're actually much lower than I had sort of anticipated. Is that, that like it has the benefit of being a fixed cost, where I don't think a building like that, I'm making assumptions, takes a lot of maintenance. But I also don't know what the what.
That was a question I had. What is the life, what do
What's
we
the
think the
life of the solar
lifespan of
panel?
the solar panels?
I think most people think 30, most of these are warranted to perform at a level for 25 to 30 years.
That's
How
more
old
than
are
I
the
thought.
ones in the yard?
I mean,
Different.
those panels are 25 years old.
Yeah, it's a totally different game.
Generation.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's
And then so for me, the number is more like 291 of like what the cost is. And then and that's also with a willingness to absorb 500K that we won't get back right away. So when you're thinking about what you're going to see your reserves do before your money comes back, like being sure we have that buffer, and then like even until that money comes back, have a buffer, which it sounds like we do. And then the last piece of the question is, if you're at like the confidence level, like a lot of this is trusting you, and like we're a small community and I know you, and so I trust you, but there's also an element of like fiduciary duty to the school. So like I take you at your word that these $63,000 in panels are something we could sell again. But like that is, that's.
don't take me at my word. I
No.
think if you don't think, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm saying that's not the basis. The basis would be,
I'm a little concerned about selling this again.
Yeah.
But I did hear you say that maybe feel a little bit more comfortable. Hey, we could put it on the music room, and maybe you could put it on the preschool. Like as long as there's other places to put them.
valuable commercial panel.
Well, not if we're getting reimbursed.
Yeah, it's, yes.
You
Can
know,
we
one
trade
thing, I just have to say it.
No, that's what I'm saying. We couldn't resell if we're getting the reimbursement from DOE. Like, no, we've got to pay for them. We have to.
I just have to say one thing, because it's such a big motivator for me. I want to be a role model for my kid and how we get our damn power at their school. I don't know if I can put a price on it, but the idea that we can show the kids that this is how we're gonna push forward, to me, that is invaluable.
Definitely goes along with our
I
strategic.
do
plan.
value it, man. And I think the educational, we were already talking with the RAC company about involving the kids in the process, even if we do, have some overlap. So I just find our kids are going to be fried. They are living in a climate change world where, I can't divorce their overall health and what they're going to have to be dealing with the nickel and diamond that we can do when we get, such a big percentage of the thing paid for. Risk, I agree. There is some.
I'll just throw out there,
But-
we have people that show up in the school every single day. They work 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and they make an annual salary of $24,000. So I take issue with this being the main priority, and they watch us spend $50,000 on a fence, or have a contractor in here who spends 2 or 3 weeks and makes $50K. Like I take issue with that. Like I think I want to live my morals too for my kids, and I don't want them to be served by a custodian or by a janitor or by a secretary or by a nurse who is making a wage that's not livable. Like, and I think that impacts also the quality of the folks that my kids interact with. And I think if we're pushing a school to hold 200 people, more people than it held this year, and this year the teachers reported it was really tight, then we need TAs in those classrooms, because behaviors are off the charts. You are getting teachers that are getting pushed. You're getting kids that are leaving the school because they're bullied and it's unsupervised. So I have a lot of priorities. Like I love a covered structure, but you can do that with a tarp. Like I appreciate like staying out of the sun, but I also want to balance it with what seems to me like other elements of the school that feel neglected. And so that's what I struggle with. And I don't want anyone at this school making under $30,000 a year and trying to live. Like that's not the community that I want, you know, if I have any control over it. I'm one of a body and I totally recognize that, but that is part of what I'm balancing here is it's really nice to have facilities, but I've also have a sense that like there are people who go, you spent 50K on a fence. Like you know, and I just I think we have to think we are getting into much bigger numbers and it's really hard to leave money on the table. Like I totally hear that. But what the cost share element of it does is we have to bring money to the table in order to get there. And so like I have okayed all of the facilities so far and I'm only one person, but I do want to slow us down in the spirit of just like keeping in mind all of the other competing priorities. Like how do we hold space for the curriculum needs when we look at where we are? There's all of it, you know. So anyway, and I just want to, yeah.
Sorry, you finish.
No, and just like the 300K goes, you know, a long way. Like we could invest in, I mean, we've invested in various years in a fleet of mountain bikes. Like there are, you know, there's all kinds of things. So, you know, as far as like PE and outdoor experience and that kind of stuff. You know, bringing our kids into the woods or whatever. I'm not, you know, I'm not trying to fight it. And I really think like one of actually the huge reasons, the only reason it's possible is because we have a community member or community members multiple that are so engaged and have so much energy for it. But I also feel an obligation to kind of balance that out with like trying to give voice to the other pieces of the school that really need attention that don't have a community member that's rallying for them and bringing all that kind of energy.
I just want to add, like our limiting factor right now is not money. Our limiting factor is people to get the work done. So I think that every single value that the two of you just voiced is a priority for every single person around this table. We have been fortunate enough to have Brent and Eric shepherding this project forward. And so it's moving forward. We need other folks to step in to move those other things forward. And so, I mean, we've got $1.5 million in our reserve. So if there are things that we need to invest in, we have money to do it. This is one of a list of things to invest in. We don't need $1.5 million in reserve. We need, what would you say, $350,000 in reserve to be in a safe space. Maybe $500,000 if we want to be really conservative.
Yeah, I think 500,000 seems
Sure, $500,000. We've got wiggle room. We've got extra, which means we have, you know, $1 million of money that is doing nobody good other than the interest to sit in a bank. It should be spent on all of these things that we care about.
Also, when you think about,
I just want to, I value your input and I really agree with everything you just said. And I would like to say when we're looking in the future and we see a $200,000 budget surplus next year, that's the kind of money that we put towards the things you just talked about, because that's in the yearly budget. And I would rather take $200,000 out of our reserves for the, and not consider that $200,000 for backfilling this project, but for attending to the needs that you just talked about, which I think are 100% valid, and we should focus on that.
But we can do it all.
We can.
Like, I think that that's an
It's a
important thing.
matter of which money we're using for those things.
And we've been tight with our purse for a while
I think
before us.
we've done a lot and I appreciate everything you said, Julia. And I'm gonna have a moment where I'm just gonna speak from my heart. Last year has been hard for me because we started our strategic plan and I would have loved for our strategic plan to allow us to focus more on curriculum, focus more on classified staff, and focus more on more of our the quality of our education. And you know, I got on board with us moving to the Florida League, and I think that you know we still have a lot of things to address, like the classified staff that we could have maybe had more discussion about. I would have loved to have had a discussion with that last March. So I feel like, our timing and our rhythm is maybe it's a little bit of syncopation. But I do think that the priorities are great, and they're all important. And I think we are lucky that we do have funding analysis because most school districts do not. So anyways, I hear you, and also I just want to express that personally for me it's been a hard year because I feel like we've missed some opportunities to have those deep dive discussions into how all of our decisions impact our classified staff and the cost of living in this county and that thing. So anyways, thanks.
Just to be clear though, like, I think we have been focusing on our classified staff. We are currently in a negotiation. I'm going to tell you right now, there's a big cost to them. We're about $7,500 in attorney's fees right now to make sure that they have a contract. And we're not even halfway done with that. So that's going to cost us probably $30,000 to $40,000 to have a classified contract. So I feel like we are investing in for our education and upping that. $33,000 went into edX. I mean, I think that you're right. We have lots of balls in there right now. I love taking some time to kind of slow down a little bit, but we do have the 4-day school week. The Fridays, getting all that done. There's lots of balls in the air, but I also think because of the investment of the facilities, because I'm going to tell you, you have to invest in the facilities because they have to have a safe place to be here. And people coming here to I'm giving tours and stuff, coming to give a tour. If you have a building that's, I'm sorry, but you look at the paint falling off of the, out there, like that doesn't give most parents, when they go into a brand new building, think that this education is amazing there. I'm like, why? I know it's not. It's the teachers, it's the staff that do that, but it does make them think about how we take care of kids. So,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
I mean, I guess, I think one thing that we just as just another lens that the table hasn't discussed or contemplated is I think, there's a commitment to students, but then there's also the role of the school in the community. And I think what's uniquely, interesting about this project is just Mosier from a resiliency standpoint, we are sited in a location that has risk from just environmental concerns. And I think just a covered outdoor space provides, some sort of assembly, for basically firefighters to assemble, to serve the community, to outreach to other people. There's unnamed number of actually academic or sort of community functions that this, serves in some level. And I think as for actual structural design, it's a really efficient structure. I mean, I think that's been, we've tried the whole way of just how can we do this in the smartest way possible to serve both the energy, the electrical needs, but also as this dual purpose kind of covered space. And I think, it's currently space that's not being utilized. We're trying to sort of right size it to fit the budget of the school. There's this unbelievable kind of financial kind of subsidies for it. And then I just think it really has so many different attributes of some of the goals of the community that I think just we can't kind of you obviously can put a price on it, but I just think it would be invaluable to this as a community function as well. And I've even seen just other little stuff the pocket skate park, there's a lot of community activity. And as we have more and more activity and community on town, I just think it's just it just enlivens the whole community. And I'm just thinking as a parent, not as an architect or anyone partial to the thing. My son wants to hang out, just as a new family in the community. What y'all are doing is awesome. My kids are happy to come to school here. I'll say as a parent that was in PPS, like the academics, like we feel you're more rigorous. The kids are engaged. There's a lot of community outreach. Everything they're doing after skate nights, like my kids are happy to come here, and I'm just like so excited. I just want to be part of it, just like how can we make the school better? And I just think like this as a facility, again, like it serves the school, it serves the academic mission, it serves resiliency. It's just like it's a win-win. And like I don't know. I mean, Brent is really like, I've done some pictures, but Brent has carried the same much. I mean, it's like there's so much like effort and like thought and just like how to like navigate all this.
Naming buildings after.
And I would say like is the 80% of your structure being paid for is almost like more rare is someone that can like navigate. I mean, I really like Brent is this incredible
Because
person.
of Brent, right?
100%.
I'll say just two things in response to that. I'm not sure that for me at least, the where the ethics fall on using school dollars to think about community needs. I love that as an ancillary benefit, but I also think that I have an obligation to the students. That's primary on the board. But that said, I absolutely love that the school campus is open, that it provides a space. I love when I go after school hours and I see kids playing out there. And for me, one of the big benefits is like an outdoor basketball court or some space in the shade in the summer where kids can play after school hours. That is not my job to create. It's a school board, like our job, but I think it's wonderful. And as a former wildland firefighter, I can also say having a space for firefighters is a good thing. I have a fair amount over the years of like institutional knowledge. And I remember when we had a burn rate of teachers, like absolutely. We had a summer where there were 13 hires in the school. I pulled my kids out because we had no idea who the first grade teacher was or who the kindergarten teacher was going to be. We had lost them both. And I was tired of first year teachers that maybe would stay for a year. And we really chose at that moment and the reason I got on the school board before my kids returned was to invest in our teachers. And like Michelle just said, like the quality actually for the kids of their school day is 100% the teachers from my perspective. I don't care if there's old carpet. I don't care if there's old light, like I want air quality, but like it's such a huge piece of it. So that's the piece that's what got me to join the school board in the first place. And there's a piece of my heart that's going to stay that's my North Star a little bit. And I feel that way about the staff that take care of the kids all around the edges too. I really do. That's the piece that I feel like if I had a second chapter, I just want to put a flag in it for folks to know that really matters to me at least. But I see all of the other benefits. I see the great work. I see the modest, and I don't need to take hours and hours of time. I really appreciate you guys just giving me a chance to feel comfortable with my numbers.
Dan, that's simple.
I think one thing for us to keep in mind is we've been pushed the last couple of years on a schedule that's not our making, and it feels rushed because we have to meet these deadlines for things that are not our making. Like they're us capturing opportunity, and it's uncomfortable because we have to make decisions faster than we would want to normally. And I just want to acknowledge that's been the schedule that we're on, and it's not our doing. It's just is what it is. And so there's pressure there to capture these savings and these cost shares that we wouldn't put on the board ourselves. It's just the way it is. So it makes it feel more rushed. It makes it feel stressful. And
well, it's risky when there's like a July deadline and there's a September deadline, and they may or may not be. It's like
the same way we felt for.
Yeah, I mean, I know
It's been working out.
That's the first meeting when we heard about this 3 days before grant was due.
And and a lot of it's due to your work, carrying us through. But I have faith in the fact that we'll be able to keep doing what we've been doing, work through it.
And I gotta say that this is I appreciate the nice words, but Michelle, Eric, Dan, all you guys at one point or another, I called and said, hey, can you do this? Emily sits on these TV calls all the time. Like, this has been a group effort, right? This would not happen without going back to even long before us. The different people who were sitting in this room when I was here going, can we do this? Will you let me apply for the grant? And they're like, yeah, so.
Yeah. I'm gonna just call out that it's it's 10 after 7, so we're gonna have to move on from this soon. But I just want like everyone here, like kind of like Julia's chapter in the book, I'm gonna dog ear a page too. Like every single value and interest that has been stated, whether it's from supporting our staff, our teachers, our curriculum, all of that is within our goals of our strategic plan. And again, I want to say we don't like money is not our limiting factor for achieving all of that. It's being strategic, having people to shepherd the work and taking some time to get it done. Right now, we have this opportunity with this federal funding and these reimbursements to take action on this aspect of the strategic plan. And next it's something else. So like, I really just want to encourage us, like we're in a really cool space right now where we have a lot of people who care about our students, our staff, our environment, the school's environment. And we have money to get it all done in sustainable ways, right? So I just want to kind of like expand the way we're looking at this because it does feel kind of scary to be like, okay, well, we're going to draw down our reserves that feel really good to have. But we are not going to make, bad decisions. We're going to leave enough room for ourselves to have a good reserve. And it's going to take risk. It's going to take us taking risk to actually implement all of these things. So I just want to kind of put that abundance mindset in the front of our minds so that we can actually accomplish all of this.
Yeah, I too had a while ago a brief conversation with Julia about wages, and I do also feel strongly, like we've all said, about that being a business owner myself and hearing what some people are being paid, it's a bummer. And when we think about upping those though, like this is the reserve fund. So this is stuff we can use, like that would be budgetary funds. Like we can't rely on spending reserve funds to up salaries for people because eventually that will go away and it's unsustainable. It has to be a budgetary thing. So I just want to throw that distinction out there about
That's totally true. And there is income off the reserves. That's not trivial. And we've lost income. That's not trivial because the reserves are significantly less. So that income can be used in that way.
Okay. What do y'all think?
what.
Like just
I make a motion
motion or
$63,000 for the solar panels from BOS Solar or not?
No, we don't need to be, I don't know if we need to be that
Or it's all-
specific,
Yeah,
but
just the spending of 60, you're comfortable with
I think-
63,000.
I think like more so my question that wasn't framed very well is around like, do folks feel comfortable and ready to make a motion or to make a decision on this?
Yes.
Okay. Because it's a DOE project.
I don't think there's a conflict, but just to be on the safe side.
But just to clarify, is it because it's the DOE project?
Just because it's
And you have-
DOE and
Then you have-
stated at the beginning of
Yeah.
the DOE project that we were choosing from all voting, so we continue as long as it's.
That will.
I just wanted to make sure,
all the-
I just want to make sure it wasn't a recuse because we're moving too fast. Because one of our commitments to each other recently has been like,
I'm
let's go
not-
slow.
Yeah.
But it's not that,
But
it's
not-
the DOE.
Well, it's because you're,
Matthew has worked.
Yes.
on
he has received funds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Okay. Would you like more time or conversation?
And I appreciate all the time we've had, which has been substantial.
We're walking our talk street. Walking our talk, that's good. Okay, then I would entertain a motion.
It really, they're not small numbers. I
No.
appreciate it.
Julia, I still remember sitting here some winter time about when we were trying to figure out going forward with it and you questioned it and I'm like, yeah, like I agree with you because it was so scary to say whether or not we were going to get funded or not going to get funded.
Yeah.
And it was like, I think that you get better with disc like that's how you improve and get better. And I appreciated that back then. And then I like, oh, and now we've come back. But I think that it's good to question this. Like you should be
That's
questioning.
why
it.
the person in the room faces and also sues the federal government on the most regular
Yes.
basis. And so.
And it's not good.
I have a lot less trust in the extension and getting paid
Yeah.
and that and all of those things. So
Yeah.
for me, that risk management is like, okay, so if the federal government reneges on everything. Put
We know who to go to sue.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll give you a discount.
Perfect. We'll be good. Okay, entertain a motion?
I would entertain a motion that, or I move that we approve $63,000 for solar panels for. What did I say?
Yep.
63, yes, 63,000.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Really good conversation, folks. Okay, we're not done.
Energy
Take-
lab.
Take a break, take a breather. Yeah,
Thank you,
you
guys.
are awesome. Thank you for being here.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you were.
You want to talk with me? I also agree staff should get paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
for the record.
Yeah.
This is hard, there, you know, there are people out there working here looking for apartments and can't find ones that they can afford, like, that I've heard of through the grapevine, like, it's a real life.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's shift
See what-
to have a bit broader, thank you, we'll see you later. Hi, a broader conversation on our overall budget for 26-27 school year. And Veronica, we've all been talking a lot. Can you just like give us an overview to kind of ground us in this next?
Can you share the budget on your screen?
Yeah, I actually can. 1 second. Let me share it here.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, let me send a request.
That should work now.
I'm gonna head out. Thank you.
Thanks for we're still solid. Okay,
Screen here. There we go. Can you guys see my screen now?
yep, it's working on. Oh, thank you. This is good.
All
You-
right. Well,
I did because we had staff day, so.
do we need to zoom in at all, or is this okay?
Can you make that bigger?
I can make it bigger. All right.
Well, that's.
See one more time. Well, probably about as big as we can get without having to scroll. All right. So overall, we are looking at a almost $3 million budget this year, which has been significant. It's been increasing, income wise, and then we've been matching it as closely as we can with expenses, trying to make sure that everything is spent with good stewardship. Couple of things that have been updated since we've last seen each other. We've had conversations with the CGESD, the Columbia Gorge Education School District. They are loosely promising / pretty promising us 13 preschool promise slots. So what that does is for our preschool, that adds $166,400 for our preschool program.
To explain preschool promise.
Yep.
So preschool's promise is a overall from the state of Oregon. We have applied for it and haven't gotten it. ESD has 60 slots. They're not using all of them. And then they did notice that we were the only section that didn't have any. So they're like, here's 13 spots. They pay what did I say? $1,300? No, it's not that much. It's $1,200.
Well, yeah, 1,280 a month per student.
So that means that 13 of our families will now not have to pay for preschool. It will be funded. With that, it limits us to only to have 18 slots total. So we can have 5 private pay people. And then we can have up to 13 kids. And what happens is there is an income limit. And so here's their limit. And if they can get 13 people there, great. If they can't, they then up the limit. So let's say I'm just using 40,000. And if they don't find anybody that's there, then they go up to 50,000, and it just keeps going until they fill all those slots within our community. There is already kids that are that live in Mosier that are going to the Dalles because they have preschool promise slots. So now we're going to bring those kids to stay within Mosier, which is benefits us because we get to know those kids. We get to experience them a little bit. They get to meet people like Mr. Strand, they get to meet all the staff here. And so it's a really good transition for our students. So, and we're very excited about it. That came about because we were in a transition meeting, and the CGCC was also in that meeting. They listened to Becca and her program and what was happening. And she's like, we got to find you guys. So that, that was really,
Because they were so impressed.
they were so impressed. So it was good. It was really good. So, all right, go ahead.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's the main income that we have here. And then this will probably adjust with, how many slots actually do get filled on top of that. But with that being said, preschool is very much in a positive at that point. Then we've got one. Okay.
Got a question. I
Because
think
that's about $100 more than what we are currently charging. So
It's actually about 300.
oh, it's $300 more than we're currently charging.
For children, will we increase the amount of staff?
Yes, so we've allocated for 2 full-time staff at that point. Their ratio is 1-9 with preschool promise, which is actually 1 less than what our current state standard is, which is 10-1. So with that being said, we will have 2 staff there if all of these slots are filled. If we can only, obviously if we only get up to 9 students for some reason, then we would make sure that it would still stay with 1 main staff and then 1 helper for breaks and whatnot.
Is the additional 50,000, did you already say that? Is that just what we would expect that people will pay?
That would be for private, for potential private pay.
Public pay.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
to make the 2.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because there will be people that do not meet the income requirement for that.
Right.
Because they're above. Yeah.
And how many students cover cost at the preschool?
About 10.
10 is what we shoot for. Yeah.
So right now we're at 9 this year. So it's been a struggle. Last year was a little bit better for us, so we had to cut down on who was, having an aide over there. We had to cut down on that. But we did increase by having music for them. So that was we tried to increase a little bit with that. So this will actually give us a more viable long-term program. So
Well, and much easier to recruit students.
and the other good news is because it's CGESD, they will actually do all the paperwork and the administrative work for us. So that is huge. And they do take a cut from the overall award, but it's the award that I'm telling you is the net cost that we'll
And
get.
do they
So
commit to a certain amount of time so we wouldn't have a kid come for a year and then?
I think once you have preschool, as long as it's funded by the state of Oregon, we're good.
cool.
So
That's great.
Yeah, way to go.
And that
Miss
budget
Becca.
looks so much different.
Yeah.
Because I opened, I was like, oh my goodness, what happened?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yes, it made a big, huge difference. Now, with that, we will obviously we're looking into the allowable costs, right? So while preschool shows this great, surplus at this point, we are looking at, okay, but what's allowable under that grant, right? So, or under those funds. So we'll make sure that, as things get updated, that we'll give you guys those, updates as well.
And the good news for that is some of the allowable costs that I was looking at is we could actually charge them rent and so get some of that money back. We could also do
Utilities.
yes, yeah. We could also do some building maintenance to that. So
Can we cover Becca's salary?
yeah,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
no, this is definitely covered.
Because
Yeah.
I will point out for
Yeah.
you all, having just looked at it, that I'm pretty sure the lead preschool teacher salary starts at $17 an hour. I'm not saying that's where Becca is because she has years of experience, but can you imagine being responsible for that number of children for $17 an hour, like, and creating curriculum? Like that to me.
I know, I do wanna say that when we were having this meeting with Becca it's Kristen's, right, Slack. Anyway, we're having the meeting. Becca did say that this was the first job she's ever had, that this is the highest paid job she's ever had, and she's never had healthcare before. So
That's
while
fair.
we think it's really low in our, like, because, you know, I've been paid really well. In the community, you know, do I see, like I did say, like they do actually have minimums and they actually have minimums that we have to pay. We probably will have to bump her up. She's down on step 10, I think, or maybe lower of that, but we do want to make sure
like a little bit aware of how we're talking about this right now, because it's not on our agenda and we want to be careful.
So
Yeah. I'm just saying on this, the salary charts are for this position, not just like saying where Becca is on, or our employee is on the chart. But just for folks' awareness that this would be a position I would be interested in talking to folks about, and just having awareness around what the level of responsibility compared to where, and I understand that it may be on par or even better than sort of other things offered in the community. That doesn't bring me great comfort necessarily, because you know, it just doesn't mean that
I really don't want to cut this off because I know it's an important conversation. I want it to be an agenda item that we've like noticed the public that we're talking about, and I want us to be aware and considerate of how we're talking about it. So I don't want to cut it right now.
This falls into a systemic issue. So, and I welcome any and all discussion on systemic issues. And I think that schools are a place where you see them the most. You see the food insecurity, you see how salaries impact people's lives. So I think it's great. And I think also we have to give ourselves some grace that the prioritization of education and people spending all of their day with students is low. So, you know, don't get too it's really discouraging.
But let's continue the conversation. Let's just do it when we have it as an agenda item and we've gone through the proper route and we have information in front of us, instead of kind of this like anecdotal.
Well, my question was just whether it included
Yes.
salary.
That's
That's where it started.
definitely that's totally
related.
It includes salaries
Yeah,
and benefits
includes
and
that.
taxes and PERS and all that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
yes.
Yeah. So we have
Well,
with this budget, we have 2 staff fully paid through this program with their benefits as well. And then we've also added additional curriculum potential. So if they needed to build out more curriculum to be in compliance with the preschool promise requirements, then we've built that in as well. Okay. We've got our earnings on investments. So this has been a little harder to track, especially this last year, due to some fund usage and also due to we had seen a peak in the year prior in investment interest earnings, and now we're kind of starting to taper down a little bit. There hasn't been anything as of recent. Hopefully we've stabilized for a while at the current rates that they are investing. The earnings investments are growing. So this is a conservative balance. And with that being said, we always keep it in the LGIP accounts. We don't draw on that for our operating, right? So it's growing in the reserves for the reserves at the moment. So that's why you see this transfer out here. It's to balance out what is being earned on those investments and is staying in that investment account. Okay. Extracurricular activities, and that's mainly club activities. Or if there is maybe a field trip fee or something of that nature, it would go under there. Our state revenue sources, this is the one that is after the reconciliation process that we went through with the ADMs. So this is what they're going to base our numbers off of. We have it at 195 for this next year. So, and we feel that that's a fairly conservative number at this point. we would love to entertain the idea with Dan of doing a mid-year relook at the ADMs and get a recalculation. But I don't know if that's going to be this coming school year thing, or if it might be a future discussion in future years, as he is still getting used to his position. We also have our SIA funds, early literacy grant funds. Both of those, obviously, we use those full funds within each of those programs. And then the special revenue grants, those are smaller grants for the school, oftentimes teacher related grants, maybe another smaller grants from the district or from the state that those would fall under.
Are those grant monies already secured or are you projecting those?
This is a projected based on averages from prior years. The Department of Energy, that's the remainder funds. I did just update this from our previous invoice, which should be coming through shortly. It's already ready to upload to Vipers, which is their final approval system. Then we have the special revenue. Now, we are planning on transferring the Mosier Tiger. They have their own PTO at the moment. So that would cut this budget down. But this would be other types of local support and things of that nature. And once again, if the income has been taken out, the expense gets removed as well. Right. So whatever that looks like in that nature, the goal is to have that done by before the end of June, to have things transferred over so that they can run with their own income and their own expenses. At that point.
Well, so what's happening is the Tiger's Den now is their own entity. They have their own 504. No.
Yeah, they're working on their own 501c3
Yeah.
status,
So
but they have their own stuff.
By the end of June 30th, the goal is to transfer the money that they have been fundraising and inserting, and then they're going to go off and have their own thing. So they'll get off of ours, which will help us with our audit. And they will then have some more, I guess, independence of what they are choosing to fundraise for, what they're choosing to spend money on.
So we shouldn't budget though $110 of their money, because it also it doesn't necessarily reduce our expenses. We have no control over what they spend it on.
Their expenses are also taken out, and so she just said that their income and expenses will get taken out of our budget. So
right
No, she's saying right now the 110 is in here, but when it goes out, so will the expenses. But that's not necessarily true, because I would think.
No, because we will no longer, like when they do Made for Mosier, that's all, we're not going to be purchasing food or anything. Like they have to purchase all of that stuff for them. When they're doing it, like if they're buying t-shirts, they're going to purchase all the t-shirts.
All the fundraising.
All the fundraising goes to them.
I see. So
Which is how
do we have a
most-
line item for Tiger's Den expenses?
Right.
So right now it has like supplies, materials at $51,000 and just services at $5,000. So those will
We'll get updated.
will go away.
We will
Once
still
that
keep
money's-
in because we still get, and correct me if I'm wrong, like part of this is a lot of times like Main Street Mosier gives us $5,000 every once in a while. So that will still be in that particular pot of money.
Community.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it would just be reduced.
Tiff?
So what is that one time gonna look like? Since we're voting on it now and it says 110, but it's not going to by the end of the month, what's the real number?
So we haven't finished our reconciliation for them, and that's the number that I've been waiting on to get the number updated. Right now, they're in the process of approving like playground equipment purchase, which could potentially affect some of the transferring balances.
Can I go back up a column to the DOE column?
Yeah.
Let's make sure we're done with that column real quick. Does everybody feel comfortable with the
Tiger's Den.
the special revenue community?
Do you have a ballpark for that number Tiffany's looking for? Like,
I would at least half, right? So if we brought it down by half, I would feel comfortable. It may be a little bit more than that, but
Seems like we thought they had about 60, well, they have 60,000 in their account, right?
Correct. But I mean, over the course of the year, because what I'm looking at is what are their fundraising events coming to, right? And so, like, for example, the Made for Mosier this last year came at about $30,000 plus, you know, the backpack program and things of that nature that might run through them would account for another 20,000. So that would be 50,000 roughly in the course of a year.
And what is the 55,000 that's on the line 21 transfers?
Yeah, so that is the money that either is saved in their accounts or is spent on special projects that they have specifically picked out. So it's being transferred to other funds at that point.
Okay, so let's just, I think it would be helpful to make sure that we circle once it's all figured out, the Tiger's Den and the money that's transferring out, it would be helpful just to circle back to make sure the board is tracking.
I think that when that happens, we will bring that to the board and
Yes.
it will probably be an action item that we're going to transfer money out of that. And then that will be reflected in our, but like, that will be kind of a
Amendment or
a
something.
journal entry on it, right?
Yeah, we can definitely do a budget like amendment at that point, just to say this is how this is gonna change.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Julie.
I wanted to back up and understand the DOE budget.
Mhm.
You've got it in here as if in this year we are going to spend all of that money and then get all of that money?
In the 26-27, only because we've asked for a 1-year extension. So that's what it's being based off of.
But we don't have that extension yet.
It,
The
it's
budget.
been reasonably assured at this, like, it's not been assured, it has been a reasonable request, I guess, is what they've said.
Oh, the extension, are you talking the extension?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
DOE extension.
Christian didn't seem to think it was other people have had more extensions, so.
But something worth circling around again to him just to get that final.
And we need to, correct me if I'm wrong, but we need to keep that on our books so that we know that that is money that it's a grant money that we have out there and that is a potential to be income. Is that correct, Veronica?
I mean, it is, if you don't have the money, right, then we would have to really adjust your budget, right? So we have to make sure either we're taking out the capital expenditures or indicating that it's coming from your reserves. So at this point, you know, if you really feel uncomfortable with leaving it on there, we could definitely take it off and we could do another amendment. I think since we've had obviously the project on the last few years' budgets, they would anticipate it ahead of time and then we could explain if it did go away and then what the next steps were taken. So I think that's up to you guys.
We really have no reason to believe that we won't have access to that money at this point. Everything's been pointing towards go.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it seems to be a reasonable request from Christian. There hasn't been any pushback. He's been very upfront with us when he sees anything that isn't kosher, right? So if something doesn't seem to be, you know, reasonable, or if it doesn't seem like it's going to happen, he's been very quick to say, I don't know, you know, or I'm not sure at this point. So, but with this, he said it's been going through fairly quickly. So. I'm happy to take it off until we get the extension request and then we can pop it back on with an amendment, or we can, you know, leave it on and pull it off with an amendment if we need to as well. So.
I preferred myself, this is just my perspective, I would prefer to leave it in now and then if for some odd reason we don't get that extension, then we could do an amendment.
Okay.
Because then we'll be having some big conversations about what to do.
Yeah.
Right, because we'll have $63,000 worth of solar panels. What do you think, Julia?
I don't feel super strongly about it. I mean, it's just both those columns seem funky to me, but, and there's such large numbers, but, both I can clean, but, I mean, I'm not I know, accountant, the 388 is what we would get back to the federal government, and the 264 is a transfer from our reserves. Is that what that is?
That is correct, yes.
So that's like our cost share part.
Yeah, that's cost share.
But we consider that income? Or just like?
It's a transfer. It's a transfer from one place to the other. So it's the 388 is income from a grant, and the 264 would be a transfer from the LGIP to do that. So basically we're saying we have $653 left to spend of the grant.
Correct.
Even though Brent has it at $1 million. So.
Because that's.
But
money-
there's nothing to the
Because it doesn't have all the other credits and stuff on there, right?
Correct, and this does include the asbestos project as well. Those are the two final projects that we have with the DOE.
And that's the way you consider, like you calculate money that's coming from your reserves as income?
It's considered it's essentially a positive and then the negative, right? So you have your revenues or your income. It's not in the books, it doesn't show this way, right? In the books, it just shows the expense when it comes from your reserves. But for our budget, so that we can show that you're not 265,000 in the hole, right? Because you're using your reserves to cover that. We include it in the transfer line.
To make up that budget.
Yeah.
So
it could be
it's a
down.
purely budgetary, like it's purely just so that you can see what your bottom line budget is more clearly.
Uh-huh.
But I guess for me, as someone thinking about how much we need to rely on reserves, it obscures, right? Because it shows as income. And that makes it look like, oh, we're not actually spending down. But is there a line here that shows us how much we're like transferring?
Well, where it says transfer, 264.
Is that the only transfer that's being anticipated?
Correct.
Yes.
There's more down in expenses.
There is an expenditure for if we were to do transferring funds into the Mosier PTO account, yes. But this is the reserves transfer, and what we can do here is make maybe a note here, reserves, and then other account, MCS, PTO.
Because they have PTO has a whole separate account, like we're all in Umpqua, but they have their separate account. We have a separate account for nutrition. We have a separate account for horse van, or not horse van, but for OEBB. So
The only place that gets slightly muddy is that 51,500 stays in the reserves, so.
Yeah.
That's generally why we kind of go with a general transfers line rather than specifying.
And sorry to go back to that one, the earnings on the reserve fund. I remember that we weren't earning as much as we thought we would last budget cycle. And this one, I'm assuming you've kind of adjusted it given that reality that we experienced.
That is correct. So last year we had over 100,000 in this line, and I've cut it already in half at this point, based on the earnings that we've seen towards the end of this year.
And does your 51,500 account for transferring out that 264,000?
Unfortunately, that's a little bit more than what I can do at this point. So yeah, just because we don't know when those will come out, and we don't know what the earnings might look like up until that point, right? So if you take it out at different points, which is what we have been doing, then it's not just one chunk and then you're ready to go. So you'd have to kind of know when you would be pulling the funds and what the earnings would look like at that time, so.
It's complicated, okay. Okay, what other questions do folks have with what we've talked about so far?
What's the local revenue source for food?
The local revenues, I'm sorry, what?
There are two sources of income for food, federal sources and local. Do we get state dollars?
So this is some nutrition specific grants that we receive. This is based on things such as milk sales or daily food sales, any lunch meals that are, bought by adults or teachers. And then this is our CEP funding is what they call it. It's the amount that we receive in every month for the majority of our school nutrition funds.
I have a question.
Yeah.
With the nutrition, do they require a certain percentage of already prepared frozen foods versus fresh? Do they have that? No, it's not like that. Okay.
Well, so for example, we have a couple of nutrition grants that specifically cover fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. And specifically, they have to be put towards very, very specific items, right? We have another one that's called the Organ Farm to Table Grant, and that is for only items that are produced by organ producers, right? So it has to be grown or raised in Oregon. So those two grants really help supplement the day-to-day items that the nutrition program does have. I don't know the specifics on, exactly what the nutrition program requires as far as ratios between prepared and unprepared. I do know just from talking with Dawn, that they have had an easier time for some of the students that have very specific medical needs when there's a little bit more labeling on the food so that they really know what the different components are for particular medical stuff. But Dawn would be a great one too to ask if there's, a specific ratio on those items.
We're all trying to work really hard to make sure that, our preference is that it is, cooked, freshly prepared. That there is a challenge to that. And the challenge is, we do have kids that, we have diabetic kids, we have kids that are, have food allergies and all those different things. And that can be super challenging. And so I would say, I went to if you go to different schools, it's pretty amazing the amount of packaged food that they have. So I think in the scheme of things, we actually do pretty well compared to other schools. Like breakfast is, it's, the sausage and gravy, that's pretty packaged because it comes out of a can, but that he's got eggs, he's cooking fresh eggs, all of those things that I think they try as best as they can to do that.
What other questions do folks have or deep dives?
I appreciate all of those notes. Thank you.
I know it can be hard when we kind of summarize it up to this level, so being able to add some extra details can be helpful for sure.
And there's a tab for purchase services, because I think it's a big question for people.
Yeah, I don't.
So I know our salaries and our payroll costs are mainly based off of our salary schedule, which there's definitely been lots of conversation around. But I wanted to bring up this purchased services because it's kind of a vague category just on the thing. So purchased services encompasses everything from instruction services, which is outdoor school, field trips, and other kinds of instruction services. It includes our repairs and maintenance and utilities here. Student transportation would be under there, which we did try to allocate, what we could from the bus budget and things of that nature, that increase in transportation. Travels for conference and mileage reimbursement, which isn't as often, or we've even had some teachers get funding from other districts for conferences and conference travel. Communications such as telephone, postage, advertising, printing, our audit, legal, accounting, and other, which we're anticipating seeing a swap. We kind of had higher accounting last year, right? And we're kind of seeing a swap between accounting and legal is what is being anticipated for this year. And then professional and staff development as well. These two, the top and the bottom, are actually mainly covered by our SIA grants, right? So our field trips and a lot of our professional development is actually covered by that specific external grant. So we have tried to break that out. That's about 35,000 roughly. And we have placed that under the the SIA. We've got about 30,000. So it just, there's some fluctuations there as well.
There was talk of hiring an additional body to be down at the middle school in order to help manage the number of students there and high behaviors. Is that included in this budget?
Yes.
And the salaries for the potential principal position. That's in there.
Yes, that is also updated, the salaries from principal.
And while we're on purchase services, would the new insurance contract that you sent for the 38,000 a year be in the operating services?
So where is it? Insurance is in, isn't that in, well, hold on.
So insurance is down in the other expenses.
Okay. Where is the payments that we'll have to make to the Friday art program? That.
Yeah, so we had actually talked about putting a majority of those potentially under the SIA as well.
We're gonna move some of that, the SIA grant, because like currently we had like 8,000 for Chromebooks. We're not gonna use Chromebooks, we're gonna do art instead, so like, there's, I think we have found that we had to wait way too much for because field trips, while everybody's like, oh, there's expensive. Like, we have some very thrifty teachers, Stern Wheeler got paid for because somebody's aunt worked there. Buses are not gonna cost, it's not that much because it's 70% reimbursable. So we don't, like, most of our field trips are outdoors and don't seem, horribly expensive. The other thing is we can always also, like, if we go to OMSI or something like that, we ask for contributions towards that, and often say, if you can pay for your child and another, and everybody gets to go, but we seem to cover the cost of that. So it's been more doable.
And SIA funds are gonna be used to pay the art.
Yes, part of, yes.
Or
Yeah.
And
And
in
we're,
addition to
and
some
they're
of these
also
funds we're
looking
releasing
at,
first.
they've submitted for a roundhouse grant. So we're hoping that we get that grant as well. So we're still, like, finding more sources for that would be great. So,
I don't want you to drive there on the screen, Veronica, but I'm looking at the staffing breakdown, and I'm not seeing a placeholder for the position that I think Julia might have just mentioned. Or
I'll have to make sure that one is updated, because I know that we updated at least the main salary amounts for that.
Okay, so it is
For like a campus monitor type of a position. Yeah.
okay, yeah. So it's in the overall summary, but it maybe just isn't in the sub tab.
Yeah, so I'll make sure that gets updated.
Wouldn't
Thank
it be oh, it's not 19.
No, that's for principal.
Well, and then like the 2, 3, that doesn't have to be an estimate now, right? We know.
yeah, it's lovely, experienced, yeah.
It's within what's there.
It's basically replacing Mary Ellen with Mary Ellen's son. So, yeah.
So this will change.
Again, like I think that this is all a great estimate, because we also don't know what happens over the summer. Like, somebody moved, like it's we're doing the best we can with that and trying to stay within the budget that we have.
Because there is a $20,000 variance between some of the licensed teachers, so the placeholder is
Actually, there's probably a
20 up, or 5 or 10.
you usually try to go to the middle of it. So
Okay. Okay, what other questions? We don't, oh, Julia, you just took a breath over there.
So you are in the middle of union negotiations, and what I've heard is that there's a possibility that goes really through discussion with the salary tables. Is that true? Do you think?
Well, I mean, that's definitely gonna be on, like,
On the table.
I'm gonna
Potentially
say
on the
that's
table.
always on the table.
Well,
Yes,
I would
yeah.
think it would be on the
Yeah,
table,
yeah.
and I would think it probably is not gonna go down, you know,
We've budgeted for a 3% increase,
okay.
just like we did for the teachers, just like we did for administrative, so 3%.
I'm just curious, yeah, I'm curious if you
Yeah.
had reserved some set of cash just in case for that negotiation.
Yeah, I don't really, do I see a couple of those columns changing a bit? I mean, again, I think that's just that's a negotiation thing, so, yeah.
And we have
Some way.
some.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that it used to, I can't remember the last time I checked, but it increased significantly. We're at 140 now, and I think it was like 30 or 40 last
The
time.
surplus.
And then a few weeks before that, it was closer to 4. And so
Yeah,
it seems like the trend has been.
Yeah,
positive.
Yeah, good direction, for sure.
But that's not totally a positive number because it's includes a salary or income, $264 in reserves. So we are actually $120 that we are pulling from our reserves to make this budget.
no,
That's because that's our required payment.
That's due to the DOA project, yeah.
Yeah, and that's not part of our yearly operating budget.
But
It's not considered our, yes, it's being pulled from our reserves as income for this, but it's not something that we could look and say, okay, next year, this is gonna be in there as well. The year after or whatever, it's part of the capital outlay.
right, so if next year we had to do this exact same budget, we wouldn't have that 264.
And we wouldn't
and
have
we
the
have
same
the
capital
cost,
outlay.
and we wouldn't have the cost either.
And
Because
the-
if you
and the
notice,
expense
like the
side.
cost and the income and the cost is really the income and the expense really zero each other out.
Mhm. Yeah, we signed up for that line item when we signed the DOE grant. And it'll go away, but it'll go away within the next couple of years.
Right, and that's if we hold it to that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Do
it could be
we
more.
want to talk about the line items that the board should keep in mind in terms of, what we would be increasing?
I mean, in all honesty, especially our school, the only thing that we really have a lot of control over are salaries, because that's, if you look at that, that is our biggest, if you, out of our 2.8, 2.2, maybe 2.3 are salaries and payroll costs. So there's not a lot of discretionary income that we have.
And those will probably increase between 2 and 5%.
Well, let's kind of talk about that. Yeah, so salaries, the good news is we have contracts for we have 3% next year and 3% the following year. The one thing that we cannot control right now are healthcare costs. You want to speak a little bit to that one, Veronica?
Yeah, so we had a fun conversation with our DBS, the benefit people that help us with like their HRA and also give us heads up on the MODA healthcare costs. This year, they were able to keep it to a small increase, relatively. Next year, the OEBB is going to be lobbying the state of Oregon to get a larger increase. So a smaller increase, 3.4%, larger increase, 15 to 17%.
Goodness. Yeah.
And that's just in medical costs for their health plan.
So currently, right now, what they're doing is keep it at that lower level, is they're increasing deductibles. And and because I think they are bound to keep it at like a certain percentage, but the following year, and OEBB is actually pulling out of their reserves to keep the percentage down lower. But the following year, it doesn't look good there either, so.
They're apparently, because it's a legislative order that's keeping them from increasing too much, but because of that, they're having to use almost 50% of their reserves just for this school year. So what that means is that they are going to spend this year lobbying the legislative government to increase that to keep up with the medical providers costs.
Okay.
Okay, so you're saying now, I mean, can we say that payroll cost,
We feel good about that for
It
this.
is locked in for this school year.
cite on the fact that next year,
That's gonna
that
increase.
line, expect to see it increase 15.
Well, not that particular, so the line, part of
The
that
part
is,
of
oh,
the-
yeah,
the-
part,
the
and I would say
OED.
we spend like 20 grand a month on
Yes.
healthcare. Yes, 20,000 a month on healthcare, and so times 12. And then that 20,000, well, which is what, 240,000? That's gonna go up to 15%. Possibly, you know, maybe the legislature will come in. I don't have high hopes for that.
Yeah,
I mean-
and once we get more information, obviously we will project out what we can. At this point, it's just conversation. Like there hasn't been anything passed, there hasn't been anything there. They're just saying you need to be on the lookout. This is on the horizon.
Are there areas where you have asks, like yourself in the budget, Michelle, that are not reflected here, where you're like, oh, I wish I had a little bit more money to spend on?
I mean, obviously,
Or position, or.
I mean. You can, as you said, I don't think you'd ever have too many people to help, you know, there's always a need. Although I feel like we are fairly well staffed, because if somebody is out, you know, a support staff is out, we can actually absorb that, we can move people around. The people that you also don't see included in this are the North Wasco people, so we have 4 additional staff members that are here, that are not in our salaries, because North Wasco, we actually pay for them, North Wasco, if you think about that. They actually, you know, they take the money in it, they are helping that. Again, you know, I want safety for our kids. We also were talking about nutritional services, as you can see, is our red line. I think if you looked at anybody's budget in the state of Oregon, that's a school, that they all have red on it. Like nobody really operates in the black, you know, because they just don't give us enough money for that. And that doesn't even include, it only includes the food. It's not including any salaries, and we've had to increase that by a person. And truthfully, like we use Dawn in there every day to, you know, punch in kids' names. So
Right now it's 30% of Dawn's salary is allocated towards nutrition, not just, you know, her actually working down there, but also, you know, all of the management that she does with the grants and with the food ordering and things like that. It includes Richard, and then it includes Rana. But that is, I mean, you look at, you know, more than half of your budget is food, but then the salaries greatly outweigh, you know, what that program brings in, even with all of the creativity and the extra grants supporting it.
But obviously super important, because sometimes we're the 2 meals of the day that children get. And I want to say,
Yeah, I mean,
like,
if you told me I want more money so I can like serve, like instead of like cereal in a plastic container, like egg sandwiches, like I would fight for it.
yeah, going to that, like, again, there is, they get commodities. And so that's why we have like canned fruit and vegetables, cereal, like commodidies are, the government like gives you some food. Like, here's the food. Dawn has to order those ahead of time, like a whole year ahead of time. And so she just got done doing that, and then it just kind of comes to us. And we are simplifying the menu, because trying to make lots of different variation in the menu is also very costly. So if we can, well, you're a restaurant owner, you know this, right? If you can say, hey, we're having pizza and burgers, it helps us out. And so we've kind of tried to, like, what will kids eat? What are they not throwing away? What are they throwing away? And we've tried to kind of zone in on those menu items. I mean, I'm going to tell you,
Like a two-week rotating.
and that's what we're doing. So right now, if you notice, there's Monday is always the same thing as Tuesday, and that, so we've done that. So next year, breakfast is always going to be I can't remember what it is. There's something on Monday. Tuesday is like a sandwich, and Wednesday is biscuits and gravy, and Thursday is a burrito. Like that, that's always gonna stay the same. It's just, and it's very predictable for kids. They like to know, like,
Totally.
and then we're gonna try to do, like, right now, we're on a three-week rotation. We would go to a 3-week rotation for the 4-day week. But I'm gonna say, like, we've gone to, pizza's been a very big popular item. I think we've normally been about 120 to 130 on pizza day, and chicken and waffles day. They're at 140 kids. Like, we're serving a lot, like, that's a lot of our, like, 40 kids are not getting our lunch, and 140 kids are getting lunch. And I'm gonna tell you, like, there's kids, we go in there, and sometimes, I think this week one day they were 20 kids over. That meant that kids that raised their hand that they were going to have hot lunch, and those that said that they were gonna have their school, they didn't eat the lunch that mom sent them. So I know those kids. You might be related to some of those children.
All the board member kids.
Yeah, and that, but that's okay. Like, I always tell the kids, like, and I'm gonna say, like, the problem, like, the worry that I have, like, with middle school kids, is they have a tendency to not want to get lunch. And I always say, but then they eat off of each other's trays, and I'm like, why don't you go get a lunch? It's doesn't cost you anything. And they eventually will go get one and eat whatever they wanted. And then you often see them eat other things off there as well. So. Anyway, but yeah.
Okay, I'm wondering if if anybody would want to entertain a motion to approve this thing so we can.
I'll entertain a motion that we approve the budget as presented.
I'm sorry, I was saying, I need to read, yeah, I just want to make sure. Does everybody have their questions answered? And are we ready to approve a motion? Okay.
Me and Dan are.
Ray, how are you feeling? Fine. Ray's feeling good. Julie, how are you feeling? Okay, let's do it.
I was asking Michelle, she wanted more things before we. I know. I am gonna say, like, we're hoping to pilot ELA curriculum next year. I had a conversation with Missy. I actually went and talked to Katie Garrett, who does their curriculum for North Wasco. I know, shoot, yeah. Anyway, so we talked about, because I got a quote, and it was $10,000 to pilot something. Like, that's not doable for us. But what Missy said is, hey, instead of piloting a whole program, pilot units. And so we're going to look at the different units. They're going to choose that will decrease our cost. And the hope is that this next year we spend that time and we're really thoughtful about.
Is that the Wit and Wisdom?
Yes, which is now longer Wit and Wisdom. It's called Arts and Letters. So it's kind of repackaged itself. And the other curriculum that we're looking at is Amplify. And so I've gotten most everybody on board with this. So that's really good. And we'll all pilot something that if we're doing Arts and Letters, we're going to try to choose a unit that's similar. And then we're all going to do it at the same time. And then we're all going to talk about it. Like, what was good, what was bad. Then we're going to do the next thing, what was good, what was bad. And then hopefully we'll then bring it to school board. We'll also have it at hopefully some conferences. We'll have the curriculum out so parents can have their hands on it and invite them in to see it. And then, so we will have an expenditure, and that's where, like, part of that 200,000 that we're going to get for next year. We're going to see an expenditure for next year for ELA curriculum, but that's a given. We also have, math that we're going to be looking at, but I think we just need to bite off, because we're biting off so much, right? But I think if we could get a common ELA curriculum for kindergarten through 8th grade, that would be like a goal for us this year. So.
Yeah, and I think, we haven't hired the new principal position, but I also think having some funding so that person has the ability to do some, even if it's not like monumental things, but has some flexibility. I don't know how you build that into a budget, but just thinking for that person being like, okay, you want to take some ownership over a project or implement something, like allowing yourself a little bit of cushion or wiggle room somewhere is probably smart.
Yeah, so we can definitely, once we've potentially done that budget amendment, there's always a potential for a contingency line, right? And that allows us that flexibility for, hey, you know, the new principal would like to put so much funds to this or things like that. And that gives you guys that space to do that.
I'm so sorry that I'm asking this question right now, but where in our budget is our curriculum?
Supplies and
That
materials.
is under supplies and materials. Yes.
Okay.
And we do also have some of it in the SIA grant as well.
Okay.
That's where the majority of it lies, is in that 41,25. That's a majority of that is curriculum.
Okay, but Michelle, and what I think what I'm hearing from you is that some of the surplus will be moved over into that pot.
It might,
likely.
like if we need to, and that's where we'll, like, if we're overspending that money, then we have to make we'll come to you and say, hey, we need
Yeah,
to move
okay.
some money.
I'm tracking now. Okay, let's entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the budget as presented.
Second from Tiff, all those in favor? Okay, it's just. Approved, great, it is unanimous, motion passes. Yay, go.
Great for
Thank you guys. Have a good night.
11 over after 11 o'clock. No, it's 10 o'clock for you, right?
It's
Oh my goodness.
10:11, so I will sign out.
I know, thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks Shannon, but let's quickly, if you could give us an audit update.
Yeah,
Just
so,
on
yeah,
status of the
too bad, Sheila. But I would say like we are moving along on the audit. They asked for, we have like this little portal. They ask for stuff and it has this really cool, like who's got the ball in their court. And so we can go on there and look at it. There's so much communication. They're like, hey, we're still waiting for this, still waiting for that. And our hope is in August, not our hope. Our plan, because we already have it scheduled with them, that we go through most of the audit in August. They kind of think that we'll have it done, knock on wood, in September.
Great.
I know. I'm going to celebrate if it's done by Halloween. I'll be super happy. So, happy.
Awesome.
So anyway, so
Okay.
it seems like it's going pretty well, Shannon. Don't you think?
Yes, I agree. They're really great to work with, and they're really on top of questions. And Veronica and I are putting things in as they ask for them. And when they need clarification, we're giving it to them. And we've all had one-on-one meetings with them, and it's a breath of fresh air than dealing with our last auditors.
And I do want to say, like, our budget looks better because they helped Veronica. Because it is hard, the whole transfer thing is hard. And so she asked them a question like, how do I actually account for that in the budget? They told her how to do it. And then that's why we're like, we didn't have that. There was like that 400, I think she talked about that. Well, that 300,000, like, well, then you just put it as a transfer. So that was really helpful. They've been really good with questions as well. A couple other things just to kind of keep in mind, in regards to nutritional services is we did have we had kids that owed some money. Some of these are really old. Some of them are recent. So, and a lot of it is, I don't know how we got to 1,000. I have to look at that. 1,000. So there's about $1,000. Normally, yeah. So what we would like to do is, and well, actually it's about 3,000. It's
I think it's around
3,800.
1,000 this year, and
This year.
then the 300 something.
No,
3,000.
800 something. That is like 4 years, like. And so Don brought that to me, and I thought we had talked about this last year, and we just said like, I think we could write that off.
We did talk about.
We
that,
did
yeah.
talk about this last year, and I thought we talked about writing it off last year. Veronica just needs us to say, yes, we're gonna write that off, and then the auditors that will help us write that off. The thing that we are gonna try to move forward with is, I find it hard that we have $1,000 worth of milk out there, because that's the only thing we're charging for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right now, we have a few adults that are staff members that, that also charge that I don't mind asking them for.
Right.
But I do like the milk thing. We need to be better. Like when kids are just getting milk, we don't get reimbursed for that. And I think like if they're bringing their lunch from home, they certainly could send, something with them, or the milk. I don't know. That's something we all have to decide.
I got mailed a letter with a 10-cent bill. I was like, okay,
Write it down. I'm bringing it pennies. So yeah.
The stamp was more.
I don't feel like, I don't mind asking like within the current year, I don't want to go back 3 years, like I think.
If we missed it, we missed
We
it.
missed it.
Interesting is I got a note because I had a
Tropical
balance
bill?
in the black left over from mealtime.
Oh, yeah, that we would pay you for, yes.
But you can have it. Like,
Okay,
how do I
thanks.
do that?
I don't know, that's a good question. That's a good question.
Okay, because there may be folks who also, maybe there's folks without
Oh, with outstanding things that we could put the meal, oh, that's.
ask them if
I
they'd
like
like to contribute
to that.
that
Mhm.
3,000.
Well, and what I could ask the auditors is if we ask people about their mealtime, they don't want it, if we just take that off of thing that's owed, because it really comes down to, it's mostly an accounting issue at this point,
Mhm.
right? Because
Yeah.
we're not,
yeah.
we're not bill collectors, we're not gonna go out there and do that, so it's mostly an account, we just need to make sure that it's off our books.
Mhm.
So, and so I think I'll just go ahead and we'll just do that,
Next meeting, we'll have it on the agenda.
Yep. that's right.
Okay. Okay.
And then a quick update for principal. Do you wanna know that or not? You just wanna go home?
I wanna go home first.
You can tell, I mean, just quick,
Yeah.
like where it's at. that
So we're still looking. I'm doing a little bit of screening because I felt like that could have helped us out with the process. We did repost it interim and so far we've had 5 different applicants. One was somebody who had already applied the last time and we're looking through those. I have screened 3 people and one of them has some potential. And we're going to have the team meet with them on Thursday morning at 7:30 in the mornings. People, the 12th or 11th or whatever.
I know,
11. I know, it's all mixed up. So, so if the team decides, hey, this is someone we're interested in, then we'll invite that person to be in person. They are currently still in school with kids until next week, so that's why they weren't able to just come in person, so, anyway, so,
Can you record that for me?
yes, yeah,
Thank you.
I
Is that
can
okay?
attempt. Tiffany will help. Tiffany
Oh,
will remind,
gosh.
no, just remind, if you
Google
just,
Meet might be-
just remind me,
Okay, so.
Yeah, and if it's not possible, that's okay, I just can't get it.
All
Okay,
right.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
second, all those in favor?
Last full day tomorrow,
You're in favor.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
Great, thank you so much. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Shannon.
Thanks, Janet.